important to have a plan and understand what your goals are.
In fact, my camel out there is suffering right now with a broken back.
So I actually found Pepe when it was only a couple of hours old, and I'm like, oh, this is a funny meme.
Oh my god.
Yo! Who is this Degen?
The old man is swing trading over years at a time. And it's like, that's where the real money is made.
The answer is a permanent loss. With single-sided staking, you don't have to worry about impermanent loss.
If you're aware, if you're disciplined, you can hone that into further financial growth.
Financial freedom, to where you can actually live life and not have to be constantly living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, more or less, right?
The entire point of the book is that dinosaurs are extinct because they didn't have a space program. Ladies and gentlemen, always remember to degen responsibly. That's all we got. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, crypto degenerates, ducks and squirrels, welcome to episode 44 of the Degen Roundtable Book Club. We are currently today covering 15 Ways to Fix the World by Richard J. Hart, or Richard Schuler, or PulseX, or Hex.com if you're the SEC. My name is Will Stevenson. I'm going to be your host for tonight. I am joined by my fantastic and lovely book club crew. We've got my co-host Zenith, we've got Mrs. Producer, Mrs. McGettit, and we've also got Mr. Nate McGettit, the ascending man over in the corner. We're going to be covering this fantastic book tonight. Richard Hart talks about some really silly things. It's very similar to Sci-Vibe, except the vibe of the book is more focused on fixing the world more so than fixing yourself. So how do you influence the world around you? How do you become a better salesmanship? How do you affect change? Before we get too far into the book, though, and I've already introduced my fantastic panel, I'm going to know what's going on with my panel. How are you guys doing? What is new and exciting with you? And what are your thoughts on this super fun and fancy Richard Hart thing? Starting with Mr. Zenith Broski. What's up, dude? What's new and exciting?
Not much. Oh, gosh. I have had one heck of a day. I argued with people over fire alarms. I talked to lawyers. I recorded an entire podcast for the UFC event this weekend. And had a chance to do a bunch of this stuff. Or not this one, but, book club stuff in general. So that's what we got.
Hell yeah.
We've been all over the place today. And I've been possibly researching getting a golf simulator for the garage, but that's neither here nor there. But we'll go to another thing.
That's awesome, bro. I like it. No, even non-crypto information is fun to go through. Good to know. Good new and exciting with you, Mrs. Producer. What is new and exciting with you? Ideal team player in the making.
Hello. Not too much going on with me, honestly. I've just been trying to ramp up, kind of doing more stuff on our Twitter. Figure that out. I've got don't have any meetings yet, but in the works meetings to talk to some people and get some ideas and bounce things like that around. So excited about that. Other than that, same old. I saw a car get lit on fire today. That was very interesting.
Shit.
Yeah, I was going to leave the house to go grocery shop and get out to the end of our parking lot to go drive out onto the actual road. There's just a car sitting there on the road on fire. I'm like, that's interesting. Yeah, it was pretty fun. The police showed up, the fire truck showed up, and then I left when the fire truck was showing up because I didn't need to sit there. There was nothing I could do to help. And gawking at the poor guy who was obviously losing his vehicle at that moment in time probably wouldn't have made him feel very good.
I gotta say, of all the times of year to have your car be on fire, winter is the one because at least it's not like you're offsetting the coldness of the environment around you. You can enjoy the warmth a little bit better, and other excellent things. Zenith, it looked like you had a thought there.
I was going to ask what the make and model of the car was to see if there was kind of a joke we could make out of that, but that's also an interesting thought, which is oh no, if only my car could burn down in a cold month so I could stay warm. It's or your car could burn down in a warm month and you wouldn't have to worry about the cold in the first place. The only thing you'd have to worry about is stepping back from the fire.
Yeah. So it looks older for sure. I don't know what the make and model are. I didn't get close enough, but it's definitely an older car. It looks kind of like a beater. It's kind of like it was. No. Yeah, right. I just went in there and I'm like, hey, bro, what's your VIN number? Your car's on fire. You mind, sharing this information with me?
Open your driver door so I could take that number down.
The driver door where the flames started shooting out. That was fun to watch.
Oh my goodness! Before we
That's
get too far
slightly
into
concerning because that's the part of the car that's not supposed to have flammable liquid in it. So
Yeah,
Nate,
so
I'm
the-
hoping that it was not your car that burned down, broski. How are you doing, bro? What's new and exciting with you, man?
I'm doing fine. I was kind of looking at a few things, some news articles and all that. A really interesting one is that the SEC, I guess, is trying to delay additional spot Ethereum ETFs from coming out because once again the whole securities thing, and it's like, great, okay, so we're just going to be waiting longer for ETH. Oh, whatever. That, and also like in this book, the story of Jack Whitaker. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
dude.
The luckiest man literally won the largest lottery ever, and the downward spiral of that poor man.
Bro, he got
Oh,
fucked, man. He
yeah.
got fucked real bad. That was one of the things that I wanted to dive in a little bit deeper. I don't remember all the details, but man, yeah, we'll definitely touch on that though during the conversation. But what's you said you were looking at articles and things though. Was there anything other than the SEC that you'd found?
Well, everything else is kind of standardized. It's like, yeah, things are ready to pump, but that one in particular really stood out to me because it's like that's directly affecting my finances, in particular. And so that one right there was like, oh God, here we go again. And so hence why I wanted to highlight it here today.
Hell yeah, bro. Well, good news. I'm glad that your car didn't burn down, Mrs. Producer. I'm disappointed at you for not getting the VIN number and Zenith. Good job being busy. And wait, you were arguing. Did you say you were arguing with people about fire systems today? Is that what?
yes.
Is that what you said? Oh my God!
Yes,
What a
yes, it was.
small world it is after all. I actually have my campfire's not going super well. Yeah, we used to be able to right before the show went live. You could see all the flames and the reflection on the window, but my campfire has died down for the night, so I'm gonna let it
Look,
sit down.
I'm just gonna say, do I consider it a smart professional move to circumvent your project manager / project engineer to go contact his vendor to go re-question the quote that he got for your design that you already approved a year ago, but now you randomly have questions for? No, I would not. I would not recommend people do that. I would recommend stay in your lane, know your role, and do your job. Don't worry about other people's jobs.
Fucking lane. Good. That is good. Oh man, it's always a bummer when people try and stick their fingers in other people's pies. That's one of the things that Richard talks about in this 15 ways to fix the world. Before we get into talking about what are the 15 ways to fix the world, though, I want to take a quick moment to talk about the folks at home, the audience, and the chat motherfucking shoutouts. Everyone's favorite part of this here Degen Roundtable show, where we recognize the folks at home that are watching us live and that are chatting back with us. We appreciate all of you guys, whether you're watching us live or on the replay, but we especially appreciate the people that are chatting with us. So, Mrs. Producer, if you don't mind pulling up the first of these chat shoutouts, as I recall, Mr. Kenturian 54X, he put this up yesterday, didn't he?
Ooh, getting in there early.
Am I right about that, Miss Producer?
I see 5:51 p.m.
5:51 p.m.
Or no, 4:05 p.m.
No, actually, now that you mention it, Funkmaster Hex had commented yesterday, but it looks like that one's gone somehow.
Oh, I remember somebody did. I remember you because you posted the thumbnail and stuff, and you're like, "Yo, somebody just like commented on it." And it's like a day before we go live, and it's like, hell yeah, that's fucking awesome. So,
Are you
yeah,
surprised
sorry,
that
Funkmaster Hex?
Are you surprised the stream doesn't retain comments longer than 24 hours?
That
You
does
know
not
what? No,
surprise
not
me,
really.
but
I respect the hustle. I do, believe me.
Oh, yeah.
But like at the same time, it's kind of an expected loss on that one.
that
But
is
shout out to
super
him.
cool. Well, yeah. So
Yes,
shout out
to him anyways. He said
Shout out
the
to
usual
Funkmaster
good
Hex.
evening with his whiskey glass, so you can just read that off as though it is still there if you want, Will.
Yes, but we're gonna read the one that we can actually see though, which is Mr. Kenturian 54X. What's up, Degens? What's up to you too, good sir? I hope you're having an excellent time rolling around in your tractor or doing whatever it is that responsible farmer peoples do when they're taking care of their crops and getting people their greens and doing all that other stuff. So good to see you, amigo.
He's fighting the alfalfa fires.
Oh man, everyone's just fighting fires all day long. I love it. I love to see it. Next up in chat shoutouts, we've got none other than my brother Samuel Stevenson. Liked the video. You're fucking A right, Sam. Thank you, sir. Good to see you. Sam and I had a good time this morning practicing sales calls, so that was super awesome. Good to see you, Sam. Welcome to the chats. I had a lot of fun this morning. After that, we've got Moonpilled Rational Optics saying, Degens assemble. That's absolutely right. We are assembling just like President Trump's Avengers cabinet. All the good people coming together, and we're gonna be talking about some kick-ass shit. It's gonna be good, man. Life is looking pretty nifty here in the near future. Next up in chat shoutouts, we've got none other than Tam. What's up, fam? What is up to you too, Tam? Shout out to Tam. She's the one that recommended that we cover this book and reminded me that we had not done it yet. So, Tam, this one goes out to you. 15 Ways to Fix the World was reminded to me by Tam in one of the comments for one of the streams. So, excellent work, Tam. That's why we are covering this one today, and glad to see you are here in the chats, ready to watch and learn. After that, we've got Hexagon lost in Asia, I believe. Morning Degens, place your last bets on this fight. My money is on me being entertained, and it's also on me not watching the fight because it's going on right now, and I happen to be podcasting. So I'm not watching it, but I'm super interested to see the replays. There's been a lot of drama, there's been a lot of indignance, there's been a lot of silliness and a lot of showboating and a lot of everything that goes into, pumping up those numbers. So I will fully admit that I have fallen prey to the marketing campaign that is Jake Paul and his shenanigans. So he got me a little bit heated and a little bit angry with all of his antics. So I hope that Tyson smashes him, and I hope that life goes well. And it'd be really cool. I just got off a phone call with my good friend Zach. Zach, shout out to you if you're watching this, broski. But right before we started the stream, I was talking to my buddy Zach, and we were discussing, like, man, I wonder if this is like, because Tyson didn't always used to be the wise old, like, respectable man that he is now. He used to be like a knucklehead when he was younger. So, like, I wonder if this, like, if Jake Paul gets knocked the fuck out, if he eats a nice big old slice of humble pie, will he turn into the wise old Jake Paul in the future? Who knows, 15, 20 years from now? I bet you that the people that saw Mike growing up would have never said like he would end up where he is. So it's interesting for me to think about. We don't know how the hero's journey is going to turn out. We don't know what's even going to go on in this fight, but that's a fun thing that I was thinking about saying. I'm going to address Moonpilled Optics comment real quick about the room that I'm in. I'm actually in my house that I almost never spend time in. So shout out to you, Moonpilled Rational Optics. I'm actually in my home, which I'm
been there for like 3 days. I think it's
yeah.
the longest you've ever been there is what you currently are
So
at.
I've been here for a little over a week now, and the only other time I was here this long is when I was hanging out with you, Nate, and Mrs. Producer, and the other New Hampshire friends and whatnot up here in this great and beautiful state. And I gotta say, like, I'm enjoying living here, especially in winter, because I've got like my nice fuel oil furnace behind me, my campfire in front of me, like nothing to do all day long except for like stream and podcast and research and do sales calls and other cool stuff. So I'm having a blast up here. Life is good, and things are going well. So enough about
You
me.
can do all that too from the mountain view as well. So
Oh yeah. So like you guys
Hell
can't
yeah.
see my sliding door window. Well, I guess you could see it now. But this is my little wraparound porch. I put up some Christmas lights for lighting outside, and you can see the mountain. Like there's mountains like, oh goodness, there we go. There's mountains. Oh man, now I'm gonna have to redo my webcam and everything. You tricked me, Nate. Good work. But you can see the mountain from like right outside my house, so it's super awesome and beautiful up here. I highly suggest you guys come hang out in New Hampshire, the real free state. So it's super awesome and excellent. But enough about me and how awesome my life is. It's time to talk about how awesome your guys' lives are going to be. What you got, Mrs. Producer?
I'm going to interrupt you before we get started because we have a friend joining us.
Oh, we do? Excellent.
Oh.
Yes, we
Excellente.
do.
Well.
Let me know that their camera is currently off, so I'm going to wait and give them a chance to turn it on here.
I'm going to go walk behind the scenes and see if I can fix it.
Okay.
Nope, it didn't
work. We need
work.
1 minute.
Oh, it did work. We need 1 minute.
So for now, carry on. When you're ready, just turn on your camera, give me a thumbs up, and I'll get you added.
Don't worry, I will also stall for a little bit more. Hexagon lost in Asia to finish off your thought. For UFC 309, I have Mauricio Rufy to win by knockout. That's a -150 favorite. Karine Silva to win. That's -298 favorite. Bo Nickel to win by knockout or submission, -575. Charles Oliveira to win, -265. And John Jones to win by knockout or decision. And I got a little bit of a parlay going, which is I think that each of the fights of the main card, we're going to go 5 for 5 for finishes. No judges, no decisions tomorrow night. All just highlight reel finishes. I'm just saying, they did a very good job. Title fight, obviously Stipe and John Jones. is the fight that people have been asking for like literal years at this point. And then Charles Oliveira and Michael Chandler, 2 fan favorites. And after that, they found a bunch of rising stars who are just like on tears right now. So like the first 3 fights, in each one of those, somebody in there is pretty much somebody that's on a minimum of a 5-fight win streak, and they're all finishes too. So like there's gonna be some action. That's all I'm saying.
Got it. So this is like the night to be watching fights and things. And
Well, that's tomorrow night. Tonight is Jake Paul, Mike Tyson.
oh, okay, gotcha. That is excellent. Oh, Moonpilled Rational
right.
Optics. Robert Kiyosaki is going to be fighting. That's interesting.
Right, Rich.
Oh, that
I
would
don't
be
know
weird.
how good Robert is at
What?
fighting.
I think
but,
he's saying that's the
I don't
guest.
think that's. No, it's not
Oh,
Robert.
no.
Why would
Ladies
he
and
be
gentlemen-
appearing on this stream? That would be so random. But anyways,
Because
ladies and gentlemen, we have the wonderful, the beautiful, the narrator of this fantastic book right here, A Wild SJ.
A Wild
What's
SJ.
going on? Hey, everybody. How
Good
are
to see
you?
you.
Aloha. What is new and exciting with you, SJ?
What is new? What is new and exciting with me? Goodness gracious. I love hexagons. I really, really do. I just decided to take a road trip for my birthday, which is later this month. It just worked out timing wise to go early, and I just spent the last week with amazing people, and it makes my heart happy, and it makes me super bullish about the future of this whole ecosystem and crypto in general. I really am just so bullish about everything. My mom told me today that she was explaining crypto to her cousins, and the way I was so proud of her. I was so proud of her. One of the first things she said was, "Yeah, and there's no middleman." And like she gets it, and it makes me so happy that I'm able to like share that with her, because I know that's not the case in many people's close circles, right? Your friends and family, a lot of people like kind of think it's something kind of way out there, right?
Crazy or unattainable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm all snuggled up and my heater's on, so I'm not gonna go on camera at all. But I'm here for this. I'm super excited that we're going over Fix the World. It's such a great book. It's wonderful.
Excellent. Before Nate, did you have a thought you wanted to throw in there? I saw you come off mute there for a second.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to congratulate SJ for having a wonderful mom who listens to all that, kind of looks at everything. So I know my family definitely does not.
Yep.
Yeah, it's been really neat. I feel what's the right word to put this?
Happy?
Yeah, happy, but I mean the fact that they trust me, like they believe in what I believe in enough to have invested as well. So yeah.
Love to hear it.
Awesome. Well, welcome, SJ. We're glad that you could join us for this reading of the book. And also, shout out to RH Max, who wrote a fantastic synopsis. For those of you guys that don't know who RH Max is, just go to rhmax.org/blog/fix-the-world. And he talks about this book in great detail in that blog. And I'm going to actually be relying on that blog very heavily for tonight's show. And it's been super awesome. So shout out to you, SJ. Shout out to RH Max. And of course, shout out to Richard for writing this excellent book and doing all these thought processes and putting them down on words and everything. So for the folks at home who have not heard of 15 Ways to Fix the World, it is I don't know, I would say it's so the version that SJ did, it's about a 5-hour video on YouTube that covers the 15 ways that Richard Hart thinks he can, or that Richard Hart implores the people who are reading the book to fix the world. So he presents, my goodness, I am just full of misspeaks today. He presents a compelling exploration of how societal structures, systems, and individual behaviors can be revolutionized to address all modern inefficiencies. It critiques outdated norms, highlighting areas like politics, education, and technology that resist evolution despite significant advancements. Through practical examples and theoretical discussions, the author encourages innovation and critical thinking to overcome inertia and create a better world. This guide serves both as a manifesto and as a roadmap for those eager to drive meaningful change. So for those of you guys that have read Sci-Vive, like I said earlier, Sci-Vive is more, actually, I don't know if I said this on stream, so I'll say it now. Sci-Vive is more of how to focus on fixing yourself, and then 15 Ways to Fix the World is more focused on how you can fix the world around you. So that is that. And then real quick, I'm just going to list off the chapters that are in the book. Chapter 1 is marketing. Chapter 2 is education, starification, currency, charity, business, population evolution, societal behavior, human behavior, politics, governance, technology, futuristic ideas, science, and finally religion. So those are the 15 areas that Richard Hart talks about in the book. And I'm not going to go through all of them and like read you an explanation of what he did for each of those chapters, but that's basically the structure of how we're going to or those are the large parts of the book. Those are the 15 chapters that he talks about. He spends a lot of his time in the beginning talking about marketing. He spends a lot of time in the middle of the podcast talking about oh shoot, I want to say it was human behavior. Human behavior is a big one. So a lot of it about marketing, education, starification, currency, charity, and human behavior. Those are the big ones. In the end, he sort of kind of touches on the future, the science, and the religion. It's not terribly long. He does a good bit on the politics and the governance, which sound similar, but they're two different aspects to the same thing. The politics focuses on the people, and the governance focuses on the like being in charge of folks aspect. So I suppose it'd be like, you know, how to be a good citizen versus how to be a good leader. That's at least how I interpreted it, anyways. But that is the general gist of the book. Before I launch into questions and everything, for the folks on the panel, is there something that particularly stood out to you with this book, with this video essay, with this series of thoughts and quotes that Richard laid out with us? Obviously, we know the reason that dinosaurs are extinct is because they didn't have a space program, which is the most important part of the book. But going around the horn, I suppose we'll start with Mrs. Producer, who is my special guest. It seems. I think it looks like we lost SJ. Mrs. Producer, what was your favorite part of the book, or what stuck out with you, or made the biggest impression as you were reading the whole thing?
Well, you already stole my dinosaur quote, so I can't really go over that one. But what he does when he first said that, it caught me off guard, and I was like, what? And then he goes into it more a little bit later, and then like, oh, okay, now that makes sense. The idea that I guess like I think he said the statistics was like 98.2% or something of creatures on
everything
this
is dead?
planet,
Yeah.
have gone extinct at some point. Like this planet is apparently very good at extincting itself. It just kills everything. That was fascinating to me because I never heard that. That was not information that I was aware of. And so that's why he's so big on pushing us into moving into other planets. And it's all about like self-preservation and reserving the human race. And that's something that Elon talks about too, cultivating other planets. And I've always thought it was like, in my mind, it's like it's not possible. You know what I mean? It seems so far out there that I don't think we can do it. Especially not in our lifetimes, you know, for everyone kind of here right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I'm not the other people have very differing opinions on that. And it's just interesting to hear about it and kind of learn about those aspects of things. Because to me, it's so it's so ludicrous, you know? So just hearing that and kind of having that statistic in my brain is like, wow, that's fascinating.
Excellent. Zenith, did you have a particular favorite part of the thoughts that were shared by Richard?
I think it's a little bit of a shout out, but one of the ties I was making, or the connections I was making, is that I'm not surprised that Richard Hart has some what we would call libertarian ideals, specifically when it comes to the idea of voting and whatnot, and having a more populated voting populace, and also the idea that like you should definitely get rid of political parties next to names. In fact, if you don't know what position someone's running for or their name, you probably shouldn't be voting for them in the first place. And I was like, huh. It's funny you say that, because I think we covered some pretty similar stuff in The Law by Bastiat.
Yeah.
And Bastiat is also a very big proponent of universal suffrage is kind of an oxymoron, and that like it's kind of the system that we've rolled with for a hot minute, and it's going to be very contentious to change it off of that. But at the same time, the idea of like political power coming from universal suffrage, it creates some unwanted incentives. And that's another point that I liked in the book, which was that you pretty much get what you build your incentive structure to be. It doesn't matter what you want things to be. It matters what you incentivize. So if you incentivize good things, you get good things. If you incentivize bad things, you get bad things.
I like that. There were two parts in there that what you were talking about just reminded me of. And one was when he was amused by the fact that you need a license to cut someone's hair, but you do not need a license to determine the governance of the country by voting and exercising franchise, which it's just like, it highlights the humor of like, you know, a trivial thing versus like a very important thing, or like he's having fun here, and obviously I think it's supposed to be taken with like a grain of salt, but it's like the idea that, you know, votes are cheap, and when you mentioned the part about removing the D's and the R's from the ballots, it was like, oh man, that part hit a special part with me as well. It's like, I think that it should be difficult, and it should be you know, disincentivized, and it like people should have to sacrifice something of value in order to communicate something of value. What do you have a follow-up thought?
Uh, shoot, I did, but I definitely just lost it. I mean,
I was making fun of the haircutters.
Long day, man.
oh yeah. I made a tweet earlier this month during election time, which is like, I know everyone complains that they don't have a voice in American politics, but the fact that you do have a vote is the literal and most manifest political power that you can wield. Sure, it doesn't seem like that much because there's so many people that also have it, but that's legitimately the way that you interact with the government in that one specific moment. You can interact in other ways, such as like primaries and stuff like that, but if you choose to get literal and technical with it, yes, this one decision, outside of volunteering your time, energy, or money elsewhere, this one decision is the thing that is afforded to you for you to wield political power. So please take it seriously, I hope.
Yeah, that is good. Nate, I'd like to hear your thoughts, and then SJ, the question, I think we already covered it in the chats, but like, what was the one thing that stood out to you most from this book, or is there a poignant memory or a thing that caught your eye or your attention or anything? So Nate, what was your part of the book that you were fond of?
Yeah, it's be the most useful. That right there, that line is like, because he was talking in that part of the book about how smart people have a tendency to do a lot of thinking. They have a lot of ideas, right? But they're not necessarily doing things, right? And the only people who are actually useful in helping others achieve things or helping the species itself advance, right, is people who do things, who actually get things done. And so I always found it kind of interesting because it's like you can sit there and you can daydream all day long. And unfortunately, yes, I do fall into this category a little bit because I'm thinking all things I could do. But actually getting something done, going out there and doing something, right? Making sure that in everything that you do, you're trying to boost everyone up. You're trying to help everyone else around you, right? That alone is very interesting, actually, when you think about it and compare that to, like, say, Pulse Chain, you know? Because not only are you helping everyone, but in Pulse Chain, what do we have? We have probably the most amount of doers that I've ever seen on any chain out there. A lot of people say, hey, we could do this, we could do that, right? But the majority of people will actually go out and do something. And I think when you start thinking about the Richard Hart is the creator of Pulse Chain and Hex and all that, and the people who follow him follow his ideals, and that is his ideal, to go out and do something. Obviously you need to be smart enough to like make stuff, but at the same time, don't what was it that he said? You'll need to help me remember this, but he talked about death by committee and how the best way to kill a corporation, if you wanted to kill it, was bring in more executive members to discuss things. And you end up killing yourself and discussing about all the small stuff, you know, getting stuck in the weeds basically. And so when you look at that, right, and then he's sitting there like, just go do things, man, just go do things. It's like, okay, I get it now. Go do things and have the idea of I'm trying to help everybody else.
I got this, Nate. And by the way, I fucking love you and I hate you, but you're a bastard because you stole mine. Mine was gonna be that the world doesn't care about what you can do or what you think about. It cares about what you like, what you will do, what you accomplish, like your actual results and your actions and things. So that was gonna be mine, and you stole it right out from under my feet. But you said it a lot better
It's a
than I did.
sacrifice of a host, and we appreciate you being host, and you're good at it, and I love you.
Thanks, broski. I appreciate that. You did a much better job describing it than I could. The thing that you were talking about was in the beginning. He speaks about the CIA cripples a company by making big committees that argue about trivial things, and he specifically mentioned like at a nuclear reactor site, nobody was arguing about how the reactor works, but everyone was arguing about the paint color,
the colors, because that's what's important at a nuclear site, eh?
Yeah, so like that's man, that's super poignant. Good bring up there. SJ, I want to toss it over to you. Is there a part of this book or a part of this essay that stuck out to you the most, or that made you feel a certain type of way, or that you absolutely hated, or or is like a super poignant memory? What's something that's sticky with you from this book?
That's a great question. I'll be honest with you, I had to go back and open the book just now. I was like, oh, man, it's been a minute. I haven't read this one in quite some time. And what I remembered, even before I did that, what I remembered really taking away from it was how much I resonated with what Richard said, just over and over again on every single topic. And one that stood out to me was education. I've felt very strongly in the same vein as him that there's so much useless information out there,
Yeah.
and kids know it. Like, I was one of those kids. I just was like, this is so much of this is such a waste of my time and energy. And I want to share one other thing, because I did just pop it open, and I was kind of scrolling through trying to remember bits and pieces of it. I forgot that this happened, and it's one of those things that in the moment of getting hate and being uh shamed in a way for something that I'm doing, I'm reading this and I was like, oh right, that was a moment that actually happened. So when the Pulse Chain tour was in its infancy and we were just thinking about starting it and thinking about creating this event series of events, there was a moment where I thought, I wonder, like, we've done meetups and things like that, right? And people had previously done big events and charged for it. And I thought, I wonder, should we charge for this, or, how is that going to look? And I actually reached out to Richard and I asked him about it. And I'm going to read from 15 Ways to Fix the World. He says, there's a big difference between just putting freemium content out there and getting someone into your paid program. Because if they've paid, they'll actually follow through. And you discover that if people don't pay, they don't follow through. I'm going to skip a couple things here. And then he says, so if you're in the education business, you should have paid content. You should have free content. You should probably even change the price of your content like drug companies do based on who's buying it. So that was just one thing that stuck out to me, at a second glance, right? Just like, look, I mean, not the second, I've read it more than twice, but just looking at that again and being like, oh yeah, like, there is a reason that the things that we do and, what we put our time and effort and energy into, if it's something that other people are benefiting from, or they're going to get some sort of, you know, um, what's the word? Not just benefit, but like, if there's real quality, right? There's real content, like there's something there, and you're sharing
Substance.
it with the world, it makes sense to charge for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that also rewards people. It's the incentives, right?
Hmm.
On SJ, because it's like, what was it? What was it that he said specifically in the book, that you need to, for those who are paying, need to feel that pain of losing if they don't take that information, because they paid for nothing at that point.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It says they see loss and they feel a sense of loss.
It's there's a thesis that, so the silly little book that I have like written as like a blog, as like an AI collaboration, whatever. My own little living book. The title of it is The Ledger Must Balance, and it talks about this sort of idea that there's got to be a cost to everything in order for it to be like an equal transaction. If you give someone something for free, then they value it with a free mind. If they pay for it in some way with their blood, their sweat, their tears, their time, their attention, if they sacrifice something like for something else, then it means a lot. This is why we love movies or books where somebody like sacrifices their life for the team, like they dive on the grenade and the rest of their platoon's able to like make it out safely. They're basically saying like, hey, your guys' lives are so valuable to me that I'm putting the price of my own life on it, and like then I'm like, paying that price. Or like, a person runs into a burning building to like save his children. It's like, this is how much they mean to me, is I'm willing to die or be scarred for life to make sure that my children live. It's like, this is the point of the ledger balancing. If people don't pay for something, if people don't sacrifice some sort of value in order to receive something that's valuable, then they don't appreciate it, or they won't like it or anything. So one of the things that I think is really important, whenever anyone gives me some sort of gift, or whenever like some sort of unusually nice thing comes my way, it's kind of like the book that we were talking about a little bit ago, Debt by David Graeber. Like, people pay for things with favors, or they develop like a social currency of favors. It's like there's this thing. There's got to be an offset to every little thing that exists. So that was super awesome. And that's one of the excellent quotes that I had written down as well in my little in my little note-taking section on the Degen Roundtable Telegram. Real quick though, before we hop into the questions, I'm gonna find one of the or a couple of the parts of the book that I thought were super fun. One of the one of the lesser mentioned things was in the education section. Richard was talking about spin doctors and spin rooms and politicians putting their own little twists on things. And he said, knowing about 200-year-old George Washington will not save you from the spin room. So he's talking about education and he's talking about history. And this was specifically in reference to people learning about history and stuff. And what essentially happens in any sort of mechanism where people are trying to pass on to you information, they're going to put their own little spin on it. If they're any good at generating content or creating an audience or doing whatever. Like even here on the Degen Roundtable, we're gonna put our own little spins on things in order to entice the audience to want to listen to what we have to say. It doesn't matter who is in office; they're gonna have a spin doctor, whether it's Ketanji Brown Jackson or whether it's Alex Jones as press secretary, or it's oh shoot, what was that lady Jen Psaki who's talking about let's circle back to this. Whatever Biden's doing, whatever Trump's doing, whatever Obama or Bush or whoever is in charge is doing, they're going to have a press secretary that's going to talk about the actions and they're going to put a positive spin on it that makes it look like what the president is doing is super cool and super awesome. So this is something that every salesperson does, every history person does, everybody that puts out information about something is they have some sort of spin, they're casting some sort of spell, they're setting some sort of framing technique to make people think about things in a certain way. And so this is just something that you have to be aware of in the world, is that like whoever's educating you on something, they do have some sort of agenda, and it might be in your favor, it might be in their favor, it might be to try and help you get to be better, it might be to try and help them get something that they want done. So it's just incumbent on you as the receiver to be discerning and to learn when people are trying to spin things, when they're trying to pull the wool over your eyes, or when they're trying to get you to undertake some sort of action, perhaps blow yourself up in the pursuit of getting 72 virgins in an afterlife, or maybe it's to like starve yourself to death in the streets of India to get Britain to stop doing a war. Everyone everywhere has some sort of spin that they're trying to put on stuff. So that was one of the things that really stuck out to me as a person who really loves sales and human interactions. And then another thing, George Carlin actually, he had a really great bit about that regarding the use of the term shell shock, how it then turned into battle fatigue, then turned into operational exhaustion, then turned into post-traumatic stress disorder. Each one of these was incrementally more and more subtle and less like extreme, and it sets forth like some sort of image of like, oh, this person went through a great tragedy and is like at the point of nervous system collapse as a result of it. And as the English language got older, we developed softer and softer and softer words to describe like an atrocious thing that happens to a human body when they go through stuff. So spin doctoring and spell casting and things, that was one of the two things that really stuck out to me. And the other one, let's see if I, oh man, the goat
Real
door
quick,
problem is a
hey,
fun one. Go
Will,
ahead.
before you go on, yeah, I wanna share a little Easter egg.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you haven't listened to it, this because so that bit is in 15 Ways to Fix the World, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, because sometimes I forget what's in that and what's in sci-fi. So like, so small Easter egg for y'all. In the audio version, it's actually George Carlin.
Yeah,
speaking the
it
lines.
is. It is quite good. And I want to say
I stuck that in there.
Yeah, I want to say it's at the 40-minute mark. So if you guys want to skip straight to where SJ puts in, let me see if I have it written down. I thought for sure that I did, but
It's a really good bit that he did. It's basically kind of like, so for me, like I call this like corporate talk, right? But
Yeah.
he kind of goes through the idea of like how it used to be like really truthful speech, you know, very direct and all that, and it slowly became very nice to make people feel good, but not really understand what you're actually talking about. But it feels good, so therefore it's good enough, right? And that whole bit was really good. And I think it was at the end of chapter 3, I believe.
Yeah, it was inside the education chapter right before the starification. So yeah, I have it written in my notes that it was right at the 40-minute area. So if you guys skip to that part of the link, you guys can find all of these notes, by the way, in the Degen Roundtable Book Club Telegram, which is t.me/Degen Book Club, all one word. But that's where we're getting all of this information that we're talking about. That's where I'm pulling most of my notes and everything. But yeah, I super duper appreciated that you put that in there, SJ, because like I remember I was listening to it while walking around my house the first time that like doing chores or something early this week when I was listening to it, and I was like, "What the heck? Where did SJ go?" I hear a freaking comedian and like applause in the background, so that was super funny and
Yeah, it's fun.
unintentional. The the other part that I wanted to talk about a lot is at the very end of the book when Richard's going through religion, chapter 15. At the beginning of that chapter, he says that religions don't highlight what other religions are doing negatively, other than like, Islam. But this reminded me of the Richard Hart thesis that is all about risk diode, which is where you don't talk about the opposition. You don't give them any credence. You don't give them any little attention things. This is one of the things that Richard Hart is very, very, very deliberate about when he's doing his live streams, is he doesn't talk about other coins than his own. And like Hex or like Bitcoin and Ethereum, he doesn't talk about shit coins. He doesn't mention their names. He doesn't say them. He doesn't say the words of the websites that are being used to hack people. He doesn't give any sort of credence to anything. And I thought that it was interesting that he highlighted that religions do not do that. And I thought, like, I started thinking, like, man, religion, like Christianity, does one of their main tenets is like none of the main tenets of Christianity, Judaism, Islam, of Buddhism, of Taoism, of Hindu, whatever. None of them spend like any significant amount of time focusing on the other religions and all of their pain points. They generally say there's many ways up the mountain. Ours is the best. You should focus on ours. And then they don't deviate. They don't distract. They don't say other things. Those sorts of religions that talk about other religions generally don't gain traction, and they don't succeed in the world. So that was the other thing that stuck out to me, was the bit about risk diodes and the bit about spin doctoring. So those were my two favorite parts of the book, and I had a lot of fun with them. Okay, now I got to find my questions. Any more thoughts from the peanut gallery while I look at my notes here and check out? Let's see, where's my questions at? My goodness, I am super organized. Okay, there we go. Got it. Questions. All right, so we're going to focus on the on some of the more salient points of the book, and I'm actually referring to this is Richard, or not, excuse me, RH Max's blog over here on his website, the Fix the World blog. One of the things that he was talking about in his little points is, and this is a quote from Richard: "If you're advertising for people to do the wrong thing, you're killing the Mother Earth that birthed you. You're killing the system you live in. You're making the world you live in a worse place. To some degree, that shittiness will come back to you, probably nowhere near as close to the profit you make on causing it. Sadly, that's the tragedy of the commons. If somebody gets to externalize the cost of destroying the environment and make profit, that's a great idea for them." So my question for the panel is, do you guys ever catch yourself spending your money or spending your time on things that are like not good? Like, gambling's not necessarily a good option, because we're all, like crypto degenerates to some degree, but like going and eating fast food all the time, going and, blowing your money on like vices, like the ladies liquors leverage thing. Are there things that you guys do that you think propagates the world being not so great of a place? Are there things that you think that we could do as a society that are better, that we could spend more of our time and energy focusing on good stuff rather than negative stuff? What are your guys' thoughts? Are there
Absolutely
things you think
not.
society does?
I would never host a show every other Wednesday effectively talking about hanging out and then having an alcoholic beverage, or streaming while consuming a nice Rocky Mountain cold silver bullet. These are just preposterous ideas. What are you referring to?
That's a good point, Zenith. That is a good point. Here we are doing it right now. Shout out to Agent
That's a
J.
great point, Zenith. I will not be joining in that.
Yep.
Absolutely not. I mean, I don't want to go on the soapbox too early of Uncle Z thinks that Richard Hart's writing style is a little bit too simplistic and somewhat contradictory at certain points of the book, but it's like, yeah, should you be blowing money on things that actively hinder your life? No. At the same time, though, moderation is absolutely a thing, and I think it's objectively impossible to say that alcohol is an abject negative to human society, because without alcohol, a lot of your ancestors probably wouldn't have gotten laid. AKA, human population probably wouldn't have persisted as heavily as it has now. So
Not the direction I was seeing you going there.
Really?
But you're right.
It's a pretty
You're
I
so
feel like I
right.
stole many people's bit with that one, but I mean, it's that. This kind of goes back to a throwback to sci-fi, which is that I think Richard Hart was talking about how there is a balance between saving and spending, which is that if you save your entire life and you never spend anything on yourself or experiences or stuff like that, then you've effectively lived a life that has been deprived of anything joyful or purposeful or something that will actively encourage you or incentivize you to do further saving so that you can get to a point where it does spend. Obviously, I personally believe that building something that can be passed on to future generations is worthwhile, but that's not something that comes across when you make arguments like this, which is it's contradictory, which is like, do you want to avoid all the vices and everything that could be seen as bad? If that's the case, then you're pretty much eating chicken and rice for the rest of your life. Sorry, boss. And then other than that, and then outside of that, it's the converse idea is, okay, well, if the spending on things that are not actively beneficial to my life is bad, then what am I saving money for? And then at that point, you're just saving money to watch number go up and just acquire and accumulate things. So it's like, I understand the idea of like, don't like do drugs and like hurt yourself. Like killing brain cells is bad because you kind of need those to live the rest of your life. But at the same time, it's moderation. There's a middle ground. There's a balance, baby.
Well, the balance is the word that you just said there. In literally every single thing. Did you know that you can actually die by drinking too much water? Literally,
Yes.
the thing that is most important to life, and you can die from it, right?
I have a story
So it's all
on
about
that.
balance.
There's that, but I would also argue that that might be a bit of an obtuse argument because lethality is also very much a thing, which is can I drink 10 gallons of water without dying? No. Can I drink like 10 grams of hemlock without dying? Also no. So it's certain things are objectively better or worse for you or detrimental to, I don't know, like living.
That is true. I know what he was talking about generally in the book, though, is like the usefulness versus detriment, right? And so there is legitimately a thing with humans where it's like, hey, if you let loose for like an entire day and you just kind of go do a thing and you're completely useless to humankind, you can become more useful to humankind after that because you've kind of gotten it out of your system, right? And it's very interesting the way that humans work that way, but the
Like a
human
reset.
experience, yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, my battery is running on 0 at this point. I can no longer be useful, but I can drag on forever. But then you're just like, you know what? Let me just do a total recharge. You recharge back at 100, and now you're ready to go for like the next week, right? Week or two.
Yeah.
It's there is a thing to be said about that. So hence exactly what Zena said, balance.
I have a quick little anecdote for the folks at home. When I was a young and dumb Lance Corporal in the United States Marine Corps, and I was on the rifle range for the first time in the Fleet Marine Corps, I was it was 106 degrees out, I think, that day in the sweltering heat of North Carolina, and I was like, when it's hot out, you drink water because that's what good Marines do. That's what my sergeant told me. I need to make sure that I drink water, and so my dumbass drank 2 camelbacks of water, and a camelback is, I think, 4 liters, which is a gallon. So I drank 2 camelbacks of water in a span of like 3 hours. No salt, no food, no electrolytes, no nothing. And I basically flushed my system of all the nutrients, and I went into what's called hyponatremia. I do not recommend you guys go through that process. It's very uncomfortable, very painful. And basically, the way you fix it is you just get an IV that's got like saline and electrolytes in it, and then problem solved. But you can have a very bad time drinking lots of water. I have done it, and it sucks, and you should not do it as well. You should learn from my mistakes. So that is my little Will anecdote from back. That was when, 2011, 2012, something like that.
Yeah, Will, it's the age-old story of the EMT picks up the young dehydrated military kid, and then he just sucks down an entire IV bag in 5 minutes, and you're like, that shouldn't be possible, but here we are.
No, they put the IV in my arm. So like my platoon, so I was on the rifle range, so we were living in a squad bay, which for those of you guys that don't know, it's basically a large concrete building with just rows of bunk beds like you would see in a boot camp movie. And nobody knew what was going on with me, but everyone knew that it was hot out that day. So they all thought that I was a heat casualty. And so what they did is they took me out. I was laying in my rack, like basically having a seizure. And they took me out of my rack and brought me into what we call the rain room, which is like the communal bathroom with like all the showers everywhere and all the toilets on the wall and all the sinks over there. And they aimed every single shower head at me, and they turned every single shower on. And I'm just sitting there in like my full camis, my camouflage uniform, with all of this water like spraying at me while I'm like basically dying of water poisoning. And so it was the corpsman got there. They took my temperature, they put an IV in, and then like in the ambulance ride to the Naval Hospital, like I basically got better, like it almost immediately. It was like a 5 minute from like, shaking, convulsing, and crazy headaches and everything to like, oh, I feel fine. Life is normal again, and then like I went and they checked me into the hospital and they were like, oh, okay, so you had what's called it's either hypo or hypernatremia, one of the two. But that's what happens when you have too much water and stuff. So yeah, they basically took me in the shower room, pointed all the shower heads at me, and just like as I'm sitting there dying of water poisoning. So super fucking super funny there. So anyways, wow, that was a bit of a distractor. Yes, moon pilled rational optics, just seeing the Corman's face over an overhydrated Marine. Yeah, it's not every day that you see Marines going down for overhydration. It's always dehydration, and they're always like passing out and having fun times and things like that. But so that's good. I don't want to dwell on the negative subject too more. I'm going to flip it over back to the positive subject, and I'm going to toss this question over to SJ because you were talking about education earlier and the things that you were belaboring about the modern education system. And my question to you is, if you could make a change to the current education system to ensure that it like better teaches the people of today, what would you do to implement it? And you could answer this on like a societal level, you could answer it on an individual level. I leave the floor up to you, SJ, but do you have any thoughts on how you would change the way that people get educated these days?
Yeah, and I don't know how into this or if Richard covers this at all, or if this is just solely like my own thoughts on it. But one thing I think very strongly about is that the individual should be more nurtured in a way. Like, instead of us telling them what to learn, listen more to the child or the student, right? Like, what is it that they seem to be excelling at or are good at or are interest, like what am I taking interest? Like, I really highly believe like trades, like trade schools and things like that. I think learning to do something that like there's that saying, right? Do what you love and you won't work a day in your life. And I think that that's where we find the most useful humans, right? Is when we're doing what we love and we have the ability to do that. So it's, it's not to say that we don't all need some kind of basic foundation or basic information. But once a child gets to some stage where they're like, hey, I'm stoked on this thing, really encouraging that outside of parenting, like allow teachers to, I mean, and I don't know how that would look, or, what if there would just be, it makes me think of Hogwarts, like as funny as that sounds, but like potions class and others that whatever it is that you seem to be highlighting in your mind, right? Like, I wish I would have had more of a push towards things that I loved doing, where instead at times I felt like everything that I wanted to do that was creative or like the endeavors that I wanted to follow were stifled in a way, and maybe this is a little bit of like, just working through my own trauma as a person in general. But that's something that I really feel that could be done better, is finding out what, each individual is interested in and loves doing and wants to do, and finding out some kind of educational path where that is able to blossom, right? And is able to grow.
Yeah. Like
Yeah, I'd actually like to kind of comment on that, because I think you hit on something really important here, SJ, which is we as humans are unique individuals, and each one of us learns in a certain different manner, right? We have different interests. And when you start thinking about perhaps what you could do instead is just have like sections, right? Some kids, they really truly only want to like learn with their hands by doing things, Others, well, they don't really do a really good job at that. Instead, they want to crack open a book and start learning about things, and they're really good at reciting things that they read in a book, right? And just stuff like that, right? I do think that if the schooling systems recognize these types of people, right? These types of kids, when it's like, okay, this is definitely someone who wants to go work with their hands versus someone who wants to, go read a book. I think that we could start coming into categories of like, what is everyone's strengths? Well, the strengths are not as unique as like, what specific type of book do you want to read? That can be learned later. But the idea of, reading smarts versus like, say, just strength and almost grit, I would want to say, getting out there and doing something, for lack of a better word. But I do believe that that's definitely a massive improvement that we could make just in education in general, because that right there is going to hone kids to start off with, I really enjoy doing this particular thing and I really love doing it. And that's going to then move into, I particularly like this other kind of like a tree, right? I particularly like this one section of whatever it is that I'm doing that I really love. And now I'm really passionate about actually really diving deep into it. And instead, unfortunately, because of the industrial era, a lot of the way that the educational system is right now is more so, I would say, just a line for making workers.
Yeah.
Making workers that are going to go to the factories, that are going to go to, you know, the retail stores, that are going to go to McDonald's, right? Fast food. I think the majority of our education right now is simply just create those things. And ultimately, this is where you get into, like, you know, corporation, you're just like a bot, you know, you're just a number and all that. And it would make a lot of sense. But, you know, what I thought was interesting is that Richard Hart talked about how the education system was designed around an idea that was formed 1,000 years ago. And
Plato.
yeah, exactly. And I find it interesting because he was talking about a bubble in education, right? And I'm kind of interested in your guys' thoughts on that. If we can go to that, Will, I'll throw that out there.
Sure. Yeah. By all
But
means.
the
And
idea
then
of a
I
bubble
got
in
I got
education.
Yeah. Go ahead and bring up your topic, and I'll find it. My next pivot is actually, I've got something to toss to Mrs. McGettit about how education goes into Pokemon cards, which then goes into like financial investment stuff. But I think that what you're talking about is going to pivot perfectly into that. So what's your question, Nate?
Well, the question is, like, when he's talking about a bubble, he's talking about how it no longer becomes useful, and it's basically like it's overbought, right? And
Yeah.
so the problems with bubbles is that they inflate and eventually they pop and everything crashes. Um, so for the past 100 years, what we've been doing with the Industrial Revolution is just like trying to crank out as many workers as possible. Just, you know, assembly line, you know, 1, 2, 3, like that. You know, you got George Floyd's the wall, or Pink Floyd. Sorry, excuse me. Pink, hey, I'm from Minnesota, okay? Of course, that was
Yeah.
going to pop into my head.
That makes sense.
That
Pink
What?
Floyd, George Floyd. What if they were brothers? What if they were twins? Who
Oh,
knows?
Jesus, no. No. But
Uh,
anyway, so Pink
yeah.
Floyd's The Wall, right? You know, where they're just, you can literally watch that music video and they're just like, you know, cranking them out like that. And it's kind of like, what? Okay, so we're not really specializing anymore. We're not trying to advance, you know, things at all. We're in this spot where we're just trying to keep the wheel turning. And that made sense back in those days. But right now, we've moved over from the industrial age to the information age now. And information is more about thoughts, rather, because our technology right now is where we really don't 100% need all these people working all these different things. The robots are kind of taking over, and it's going to continue to evolve into that. So the education system really needs to switch over. The structure of the education system needs to switch over. However, it's been, quote unquote, working for the world so well right now that there really isn't too many differences around the majority of countries. The one that we have here in the United States is the majority of all the education systems that are out there in the world. And because of this, it's almost like there's a bubble where everything is overbought at this point, right?
Kind of like the too many kids in the college sort of thing.
Well,
Or am I misinterpreting?
in the colleges, yes, but there's too many just workers being built. There's not enough actual thinkers. There's not enough inventors. There's not enough specialized people finding what they want. How many people go to college or furthering education and actually get the knowledge that they need to be able to do what they want? Instead, it's just you go get further education to then get a job that you really don't want, and or to not get the job, I should say, that you originally were going to go for, you know?
I like that. I like how you brought that up, because like that's another thing Richard talks about, is how people going to college is kind of like getting insurance on something that you don't know is going to pay out. You're spending $60,000 to get. Generally, folks are, when they go to college, this isn't everybody, you know, like disregarding STEM and like doctors and dentists and like targeted college degrees. Folks will go to college to get basically a $60,000 insurance policy that they'll be able to get a job solving a future problem sometime later on, like 4 years from now, rather than like learning how to slowly solve problems that are relevant right now and kind of like putting things off till later. That's the thing that I wanted to tee off of what you were saying, Nate. You did you I remember you saying you had a question though related to that. Did you ask your question? I might have missed it, or was there
Yeah, so
something?
with that explanation, the question is, do you really think that we're kind of at the peak? We're at the top of the education system right now, and it needs to
Okay.
crash is the way it is, and able to reset and start a new system.
Oh, I could see that happening. I could see the traditional Rockefeller system of learning. Ooh, Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. Did we cover that one? Oh wow, look at that. Moonpill brought it up as well. Yo, Zenith, go
We
ahead,
have
bro.
not. No,
Launch into it.
I was actually just holding that up to ask Moonpill, is this what you're talking about? Because yes, I purchased it, but we have not covered it on book club yet.
Oh
Outwitting
man.
the Devil in the 1930s.
It's in the suggestions. Yeah, I remember seeing
Sorry,
that a couple
remind me,
times.
what was the topic again?
The thing that Nate wanted to ask is like, what do you see happening with the education system chaining, like the bubble bursting, so to speak? We've been doing the Rockefeller system of education for, oh, excuse me, middle school to high school for the last 100 years or so, ever since the 1920s, I believe, or the 19 maybe it was the 1800s actually. But the Rockefeller system of education for basically cranking out good little factory workers and things. And this is more like middle school, high school, so more so than higher education, college and stuff.
Even going into college, I would consider it that, you know.
Yeah. Well, there is a bubble in the college thing, and I think that's
Mm.
just the cheapening of the degrees. I don't know.
Yes, that
It
too.
looks like you guys both have thoughts. Nate, you go first, and then Zenith.
Well, no, Z, I'm interested in it because I think you've gotten it. So let's go ahead and hear from you.
Well, I think I tackle this idea on a different axis, which is that education is not about building factories workers anymore. Education, and higher education included, is a jobs program, which is that by the numbers, if you look at it, the quality of education has not really increased, if anything, ever since the creation of the Department of Education in the U.S. back in the early 70s, I want to say. There really have been minimal advances in any sort of like major scientific discovery, especially regarding like physics and whatnot. Granted, technology moves at a rapid pace, and we learn a lot about that. But as far as like deeper studies and exploration into less technology driven fields and more of like old school kind of scientific endeavors, they've largely stagnated. But the thing that is not stagnated is the administrative state that backs up the education system, whether it's the lower system or the higher system. By the numbers, you just got to look at it, like the number of people actually being educated as opposed to the number of administrators, middle managers, people that run some sort of adjacent auxiliary part of an education system. That stuff has ballooned greatly. I think that this is a very complex topic because there's a lot of different points that go into it. But I mean, to I guess cap it off with the idea that like college degrees aren't worth what they used to be. It's the idea that I think the role of college has changed, which is that previously it was actually sought after by people who were interested in higher education, or more of the doers as opposed to people just doing it because it's the average expectation.
Yeah.
And as a result, instead of getting highly motivated, highly successful people who traditionally go this route, instead, if you shove everyone that route, you should not be surprised when the result is more of the average.
Dang, bro. That's
Well said.
fucking. I like that.
I agree.
Cass SJ, do either of you guys have thoughts before I do a fancy little transition and turn this into a question for Mrs. Producer?
I think you covered that very well.
Excellent.
The only thing I wanted to say is Nate is basically implying that the education system needs to come to a crash before it can basically essentially kind of restart and hopefully become better and turn into something else. I want to say I guess in my opinion, I think we are approaching that very rapidly right now. It's starting to get there. Last I have heard, the standards have dropped in order to what is considered passing grades. The percentages that you need to do well has dropped very dramatically, at least in the US here. And Soren, I now have a young child who is in kindergarten, the very beginning stages of school, and going there and seeing how they kind of operate, because I've been in the classroom a couple times, not super often, but it's both disappointing and kind of heartening, because one of the things that they did that I really was not exactly against, but I guess let's say there was mixed feelings. They played a lot of like their education things through the TV. They're like, oh, let's plop them down. We'll put in this video about math, and here's this math video. And I'm like, how is that teaching them? I don't necessarily like this, especially because they always tell you with young children to limit their screen time.
Yeah.
And this feels like they're doing the opposite. And I'm not exactly against that, because the world has become a lot more technological. And I do think we should embrace the technology rather than being like, they should have less screen time, because that's so normal now that like they get out into the real world and they're like, how do I do this tablet thing? Like it would be a hindrance to limit that too much. But then at the same time, it's kind of like, okay, so what next? But then they're, on the other hand, from what they're telling me at least, I haven't like seen this, but this is the message they're conveying, that they are taking into consideration now that people learn in different ways, and they are trying to embrace that, and they are trying to encourage it and teach children in those different ways. They're trying to modify how they teach them so that not everybody's on that same cookie cutter. You have to do the tests and you have to read the books. Like, oh, if you're a physical learner, they claim anyways that they're trying to get into the physical learning with the kids now. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag, but overall, I think that the education system is kind of coming to that head, and we should see it. I don't really have a firm prediction, but maybe within the next like 50 years.
Okay. I like where you're going with this, and it reminds me of the direction. At least in my opinion, there's more seriousness being applied to homeschooling, to tutoring, to parents being involved in the education more so than like the public school system.
Private
There's
school,
more,
yeah.
yeah, more private schools. There's more YouTube University, there's more like reading books and book club, shit like this going on for education, instead of like, hey, I'm gonna go, sit in a classroom and get lectured at, or like one of the things that you were talking about there in that example, Cass, is I was thinking of like the difference between a kid watching a screen and consuming versus a kid interacting with the screen, and the screen is a tool as like a means to an end to get something done. Like there's a difference between like consumptive behavior and interactive behavior. I see screens in those two different categories. One is like it's like brain deadness, and I'm just like sitting there absorbing things like a lazy sponge, and the other one is like I'm processing information, and the screen is just simply how I measure results and how I have different like input levels and things. So like I'm sure there's something to be said for the way that the schools are implementing screen usage and interactivity with kids, and whether the children are learning like audio visual, or they're learning kinesthetic, or they're learning via like lecture and guidance or something like that. I'm not entirely sure, but that's the direction that I see the educational like bubble collapse, if it does happen, is just a furtherance of things like YouTube University, a furtherance of things like homeschooling and tutoring, the Ron Paul system of education, where you run your kid through a program that you can find online that just basically teaches you how to teach kids things, or things of that nature, moving away from the centralized learning, the schools, and the sit down, raise your hand, yada yada yada, 30-minute recess, all that stuff, moving away from that, moving more towards the practical application, real life stuff, and that nature. So that's what I was thinking on that. And my next question, and this one, Cass, is for you, and it's regarding because we all know that you're an avid Pokemon collector and fan and everything. While we were talking about jobs and people getting to do what they love, and then we transitioned into education and stuff, one of the things I was thinking about is kind of like apprenticeships or things of that nature, where people get into learning about the stuff that they want to do from other people. And like I know that you don't use Pokemon as like a means of income or anything like that. It's more of a hobby, but it's also like a financial vehicle. It's a investment system into the future. Like whether I believe in Pokemon cards or not, there's people that spend boatloads of money, and it is like a source of storing value, just like art, just like a pile of gravel, just like buying a tractor, or whatever the heck. There's means that people can store value in the world, or like buying Bitcoin or internet cryptocurrencies and things. And I wanted to ask you, like, you took from my understanding, you took Pokemon and you essentially you found a way to turn a hobby into a store of value system. And I'm curious if there's because I know that people make money from doing Pokemon stuff. Like I understand that there's an economy back in there. Do you think that it's possible for like folks to study this sort of thing and find a way, or at least in your experience, is there a way for people to find a way to make money out of this stuff and find ways to do things that they love and make money out of it in a similar system to yours of collecting things that other people find valuable? Is there I guess what I'm really asking is, how did you get into this position, and do you think that it's replicable for other folks?
Okay. So yes, definitely. For me, it was always more of a collecting aspect, and I got the usual. Zenith, correct me if I'm wrong, but this was something that both of us were a little bit hurt by in sci-fi, with the whole idea of don't keep anything unless it's important or has sentimental value. Was that sci-fi or was that a different book?
I have no idea what you're talking about. I apologize.
No, it's okay. It was a while ago now. Um, but yeah, that idea struck me as like, oh, but I keep a lot of things, and it came to me to realize that I don't keep them frivolously anymore. I've had a lot of backlash over the years from family members and friends who are like, "Oh, that stuff is useless and it's never going to be worth anything, and you're stupid because you're wasting your time."
Yeah.
But getting into the community and really finding all the people that I have that I've made friends with now, there is a legitimate collectibles market out there that is, I guess the best way to put it, sort of immutable towards normal financial things. Um, so when you talk about the stock market, it goes up and down, and it does that, pretty regularly depending on the economy. What this friend had done research into is that collectibles are apparently pretty different, because the main people who collect these things, and mostly it's like
Mhm.
sports cards. Pokemon is just finally kind of starting to get into this a little bit, but before that, it was heavily sports cards and somewhat things like Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
But these collectibles go on a path of their own. And he was looking at the charts and he said that they don't follow that norm, because usually the people who are collecting these things are people who have money to throw away. So they just throw it at whatever they wish. Um, but yeah, so that inspired me to just get a few things to grab and sit on. And now, I mean, if you wanted to get into investing with Pokemon, now's a pretty good time. A lot of people cross over from crypto and Pokemon. I know a lot of Pokemon people who are in crypto now,
Yep. That's the
and
that's the
they
next direction we're taking this.
and they do both, and they compare them heavily. Like, they make these comparisons between how the charts work and how you can predict how the market's going to go. So yeah, if you're interested in that, I definitely think it's doable, and especially right now is a good time to do it because a lot of people have hopped into it, and the market has very much become a collector, or not a. It's very much becoming a investor game instead of a collector's game. It used to be primarily people who collected, and everything was just like really not worth putting your money into because it was just
Yep.
dirt cheap. It's been out for 20 years. It's still worth $10, but it's changed now. So if you're interested in it, it's definitely something you can research, you can look into. There's all kinds of communities all over the place for it.
Think
Excellent.
of something like art and or say watches. That's well known to be one of those things that people go park their money in. Pokemon's kind of becoming the same thing.
Yeah, yeah. I like it. And like, speaking of being down in the market, like, we are beginning the fantastic part of the bull run. Bitcoin like over this last week, Bitcoin just kept making all-time highs. It moved what, like 20,000 or close to $20,000 in under a week. Like, it was absolutely crazy. A lot of the rest of the crypto sphere is still in like relatively decent buy zones, depending on what your time horizon is, and people can use this opportunity in the market to enter into a new system that is going to like change the way that we process money and change the way that we see things in the world. So I'm gonna ask this question to the panel in general, but my oh man, I had a really great transition there from Pokemon into like NFTs into cryptocurrency and things. But essentially, cryptocurrency it's the new store of value. It's the new kid on the block. Bitcoin is making crazy moves. There's lots of people that are adopting it. One of the things that Richard talks about a lot in the book is that Bitcoin, it didn't work as a transactional currency thing, but it does work very well as a store of value thing. There's other cryptocurrencies that work great as transactions. Shout out to our good friend Gabriel. He was making some excellent posts on Twitter today about stable coins and things of that nature. And there's other stuff that's going on in the cryptosphere. So what I want to ask you guys is, where do you see the world of cryptocurrency playing in the new monetary system that we live in? Is it going to become, are we, maybe not central bank digital currencies, but is it going to become a more normal part of day-to-day life? Is a higher percentage of the world going to buy and use cryptocurrencies in day-to-day transactions, whether it's USDC, whether it's Bitcoin in El Salvador for day-to-day transactions, whether it's this or that or the other thing, stores of value, ETFs, any things of that nature? What do you see happening in, I'll say, the next 10 years in the cryptocurrency sphere? And we'll just kind of go around the panel, and I would like to hear you guys' thoughts on this, because this is the part of the book that he spends a heavy bit of time on. What you got, Nate?
Yeah, and I just want to throw out real quick that no, we can't really use cryptos currently. Even Pulse Chain is too slow, right? We can't really use currencies as like a normal payment system. It's just too slow. It's too early. Ultimately, the large powers that be, like the Visas and the MasterCards, right?
Yeah.
They're doing millions of transactions. What is it, a second? Versus something like Pulse Chain, which is very fast, can only do like 2,000, 4,000, 6,000, somewhere in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at the difference in those numbers, it's absolutely insane. And these industries, these larger industries that are moving around trillions of dollars just back and forth, they see crypto in only two lights. They have the Bitcoin, which is a store of value. It's the gold, the digital gold, and then they have the altcoins. That's it. And the only interesting ones out of the altcoins for them is the stable coins that's connected to the dollar, because look, it's a digital dollar. And then you got basically oil that they can use and build on and fuel their machines with, basically online, which is Ethereum. And then you've got a couple of other ones. Solana's making its name out there now. I know AVAX is another one, right? But there's just a couple others, and that's really it. But however, these ones are still looked at as like super speculative, and people are mainly just gambling around with it at this point. There's nothing actually useful there. That's how the wide world sees this still, even to this day. So I just want to go ahead and point that out.
Nate, can I get you to turn your volume down about 20%? We got some feedback from one of the folks in the audience. Zenith, can I get a sound check from you so I can see how loud normal talking things are?
Yeah, you can absolutely get a sound check. Also, I do have an answer and a non-answer for you on this one.
Yes,
by the way, Mrs. Producer, if I could get a screen share, I would greatly appreciate it. So, answer number one, the non-answer. Cryptocurrency is very much a first world item, which is that we take for granted the place that the first world is in at this point, where energy is plentiful and cheap, and we are in a highly advanced society. So we have the ability to do things like use cryptocurrencies as opposed to actual other things, whether it's a barter system or a more hard money, like we talked about in the Great Wave, where it's all the different issues with the monetary systems of the past. Like, granted, they all had their issues, but at the same time, they didn't rely on electricity to survive. So yeah, I think that there will always be a place for non-cryptocurrencies in the world as some sort of transfer of material goods, value, whatever you want to be. What I am showing you right now is the actual answer to your question, which is, shout out to Charlie from Cultivate Crypto. This is the Lindy effect. Please keep in mind that this was published back in 2018 from Murad, but this is the idea of the adoption curve for cryptocurrencies. Right now it says we are here at this spot, and as you get further along, you see different things, which is you can either be a reliable store of value, you can even get to being a widespread medium of exchange, or even a convenient unit of account. Right now, there's very few things that even reach that level. That's pretty much just like the US dollar or the euro, effectively. Widespread medium of exchange, it's pretty much any recognized currency is elsewhere. And then reliable store of value, it's probably like gold bars, silver, precious metals, that kind of stuff. But along the way, there's different steps you can get to, whether it's greater decentralization, greater liquidity, greater custodial solutions, institutions, financialization, and regulatory clarity. So again, 2018, we were here. I'd argue we're a little bit higher up now, probably towards the custodial solutions and institutionalization, and we're trying to achieve greater liquidity. That is in reference to the ETS, which is that I see that eventually Bitcoin will reach that store of value. But right now, one of the great benefits of cryptocurrencies is the volatility, which is that there is the ability to use it as an investment to make incredible wealth out of, but at the same time, it has not reached reliable store of value just yet. It's starting to be recognized as such, but it's not there yet.
I like this chart. This is a good chart, and especially that it has the greater liquidity further up on the lines. And you said this was 6 years ago, 2018?
Yep, July 25th, 2018, from Murad, aka at Must Stop Murad. This is the idea of the Lindy effect, which is the adoption of a currency as we go further in time.
This is interesting. I like.
I do believe that this chart in particular was built more towards and for cryptocurrency specifically, because it talks about stuff like digital scarcity as the beginning of it.
Yeah.
Not like a gold bar, but it's an actual thing.
I've got a question for SJ actually about the cryptocurrency stuff. Where do you see the cryptocurrency world taking you? You tour the states a lot and the world a lot with the Pulse Chain tour, and you're out and about in lots of places. Do you see people out and about talking about cryptocurrency, using cryptocurrency? Perhaps we have a biased perspective because we're in the space and we hang out with other people in the space. But as you're going about the world and meeting folks and interacting with people, do you think that there's a higher amount of participants that are using this in their everyday life, or people that are just interested in talking about this stuff than there used to be? And do you see a different world in the near future about how folks use cryptocurrencies and things?
So I feel like my answer a year ago would be very different from how I feel right now about it. I do feel like more people are interested, are a little more educated, and I also see, I kind of envision or see this future where blockchain technology is utilized in such a way that the user may not even know that they're utilizing it. And that, I think, is one way that crypto crypto finds mass adoption, is through utilizing blockchain technology kind of in general. Just and part of this is, I mean, this is kind of where my mind is, because I'm involved in this this group, but FanForge is, well, recently we saw different people publishing things on the blockchain, right? The court transcript, right? And to have the opportunity to do that, to know that that's there forever, right? And no one can take away or take down the fact that that has now been published to the blockchain. There's all these companies that are going around, and let's say you bought a video game, 4 or 5 years ago, you paid $30 for it, and then whatever company you bought that through all of a sudden decides to pull that video game, and you no longer have access to it, right? Unlike our physical goods, right? The digital, do you have, who owns it? Who really owns it, right? And that's to me, that's what comes down to, like, one of the best ways to explain crypto, right? Is who owns it. Like, who really has access to your money, to your funds? Is it you, or is it the bank? Is it the middleman? So I feel like that's kind of a broad answer to your question in terms of crypto adoption, but yeah.
That's fantastic. I did not see that coming. I hadn't thought about, like, man, because, like, we've all had Netflix or Hulu or Amazon or YouTube's pulled videos down before, and it's like, oh dang, like I've had I used to love this video game World of Tanks, and they changed how the game was played, and I'd spent a lot of money on, because this is a subscription model game, and I'd spent a lot of money and time and effort learning how this game works, and living in the community that's growing, and learning how to play it and getting really good at it, and then out of nowhere, bam, the whole thing changes, and it's like all of my time investment is now gone. So with this transcript being on the blockchain, I don't think blockchains, maybe they can host movies. I don't think so, but whatever. Maybe it's a matter of time.
They can.
Who knows? Oh, they can? Oh man, that's crazy to think
So
about.
comics, any
Yeah.
digital collectible, any
Yeah.
so that's what FanForge is doing. And I'm sure there are other groups out there working on that and doing that. But like, I mean, I've just been part of these conversations recently where just the thought of what we can do with this technology in the future, I mean, I think it's just going to be inevitable. Like, people are going to come into this world not necessarily through hearing about a crypto at all.
Yeah.
And that's becoming to me more and more what I think, I don't know if the narrative is the right word, but I think that may end up being more the case than not. And so, and in part because I have a lot of friends and family on both sides of the fence, politically, religiously, socially, right? So I hear about this in different lights. And to think of any administration pushing a CBDC, right? And and not that that anyone is. There are so many people out there that think that crypto is only for criminals and for terrorists, and that's just this huge misconception that they have. And it's hard, you'd be hard pressed to change people's minds about when they think things like that. So maybe it's not crypto that saves crypto, right? Maybe it ends up being just, some other utilization of blockchain technology that then brings this mass adoption. And then through that, eventually, I mean, we will be using, like, I mean, I'm, kind of speaking for everyone here, but like, I utilize crypto almost daily. And I, I know that once people understand the implications of what blockchain technology really is and what it can do, it just makes sense to me that more and more of our world, just in general, is going to kind of move that way and want to be like that. And decentralization, I think in general is huge for the world. And I feel like that's something that really can push everything forward that we're about and we're, talking about here and working towards and for.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I myself, I was I was a big follower of Destiny 2. And every expansion, I was buying, and they eventually just kind of went away with those former expansions. And I'm like, wait a minute, I spent hundreds on this, and it's just gone out of the game now. That's actually insane, right? And if you can,
I mean, think about how that correlates to crypto, right?
Yeah.
I bought hundreds of these coins. They were all on this exchange. And now they're gone. Poof.
Boom. Poof. However, I want to, if you can share my screen real quick, I want to go ahead and shout out J.O. Young, the Hexakin. He just recently, he threw, that's right. Yeah. He put on the Pulse Chain blockchain this little GIF of just saying that bull market feeling, right? Which I don't know if the sound will come through, maybe not. But, it's the cutest little GIF ever, right? But this is an actual video. And so this is something that I would like people to start thinking about when it comes to Web3, right? This is something of an evolution, okay? It's the evolution of, it's no longer about you have these centralized entities that are now like, hey, I'm going to provide a service for you. But nowadays it's going to be like people are just going to do things. It's kind of like, I almost want to compare it to YouTube, because obviously we need comparisons when something is brand new. We don't have the evolution of stuff happens as it's going along. But let's go ahead and go back to the very beginning of what YouTube was. YouTube was simply just uploaded shitty videos from the 90s and cat videos and things like that. And it was a public video sharing space. Okay. Well, here's the thing. What is YouTube now? It's now taking stuff down if they don't like it, right? There's a lot of centralization right there. However, if you were to put it onto a free blockchain, even if somebody takes something down on the blockchain in Web3, you can still go back through and see it. It's going to be public. Okay. And that's the thing. People can see and be like, hey, why is this taken down? Right. And then the public is going to be able to then actually make a stink about it. versus like, oh, they may have said something somewhere, but you can't find the video, so you can't go find the evidence, right? And then that's up to the person who originally uploaded it. That's neither here nor there. This is the beginning, though. Here's the problem you run into with what Jae Young did right there. You can't really upload a movie, can you? You know, like a 5-hour, 3-hour movie.
Well,
you can't really do that. There's not enough block space. And that's something that I was talking with a bunch of individuals about, some devs talking about like, hey, could we create like a YouTube off of this? And it's like, well, no, there's not enough block space yet. And this goes back to, hey, we're not fast enough yet. We're still a little too early. But within the next 10 years, I think we're definitely going to be there. We're going to be able to start uploading movies. There's going to be things like, you know, a crypto YouTube or whatever, right? I believe that is a future.
There's a really good quote that Richard has from this book that kind of dovetails in perfectly to what you're talking about, Nate, and it's about monopolies actually. So he says you must have choice to allow for the selection of excellence, which is what YouTube used to be, like you were describing. If you have no choice, you can't enforce excellence. Monopolies are bad for all parties involved, except for, you know, the monopoly. And if all you care about is profit, then it's not necessarily good for the world. So monopolies of any sort, whether it's a business, whether it's a monopoly on knowledge, whether it's a monopoly on like access to something, it's all generally bad. And one of the things that I think that we're encouraged to do as hexicans or people that are just like interested in or survivalists or, you know, whatever you want to call yourself, somebody that helps make the world a better place, is we're encouraged to create our own thing that makes the world a better place and to resist monopolization as best we can. So what I want to ask the panel is, like, what is the thing that you would like to do with your wealth, with your time, with your energy, presuming, and I kind of sort of asked this question a little bit before when we were doing the logarithmic money questions, and I was just increasing the amount of money that you had for spending on the world and everything. But if you had a business that you could run, if you had a thing that you could do to not necessarily fight monopolization, but if you had a service that you could provide or some sort of dream that you could capture or some sort of thing that you would run, it's like it's the general question I ask of what would you do in Hexaco? You know, what would you do with your time, with your energy, with your money, with your wealth? How would you make the world a better place if money was no object and time was no object and you had the resources necessary to get these goals accomplished? What do you think your vision would be? I'll go ahead and start out because give you guys time to think about this and stuff. Is what I would want to do is I would want to teach people more about self-defense, specifically in the world of shooting. That's something that I think that I'm pretty decent at. I have quite an extensive knowledge in the world of firearms and in teaching people simple things and in dumbing down language. And I just have like thousands of hours of experience on the range observing people send rounds down range and stuff. So that's the thing that I would do is I would help people. I would want to start a business centered on like, hey, like this is what you should look for when you buy a gun. This is how you use this particular gun. Let's go out to the range. Let's work on your marksmanship. Let's work on your fundamentals. Let me teach you the things that are necessary and I'll get you from 0 to 1, right? I'm not some sort of like expert trainer. I don't take people from like, you know, 1 to 10 or 1 to 100. I take people from knowing nothing to knowing something that's good enough to function or things like that. So that's what I would do is I would probably start some sort of security business or marksmanship business or weapons handling business or just general weapon safety and just stuff about ballistics and marksmanship usage and things of that nature. Like I would want to educate people on how to use the tools that are necessary to make sure that other people don't hurt them and that they can stop others from inflicting their will on the world. So we can go around the horde. Whoever, if anyone has an idea, go ahead and come off of mute and I will toss it on over to you. But I'm going to toss it to SJ first because I see you came off of mute first. But what would you do, SJ, in Hexaco? How would you make the world a better place if money were no object?
I have had a hard time in the past visualizing things like that. So I've actually been doing a lot of that recently, thinking about what does Hexaco look like for me and how does that happen? This idea is, I don't know that it's necessarily something I would do personally. I do think it's a service that needs to be around, and it will be so more so in the future for people who either lose a loved one or have an accident and get amnesia. Being someone to contact to help them get their crypto restored in some way, shape, or form, right? Like if they haven't taught a family member or a friend, and this person all of a sudden doesn't know, what, I don't know if it would work with amnesia, but I just have this heart for people that have this wealth, right? Let's say someone's generationally wealthy and their spouse is not able to access those funds. So that was just one random business idea I came
I
up
like
with.
that.
Yeah.
That's freaking awesome. Zenith, Nate, Mrs. McGettit, do you guys have, that's really good, SJ. I like that a lot. There's I can't remember what the name is of the
And she ran off.
Oh no. Wrong button. That's okay. She'll be back in a moment, I'm sure. Nate, do you have a thought on what you would like to do?
Yeah.
And we could call it Hexaco. We could call it, in the wealth generational space, like what would you do to solve the world's problems? She's back again. What would you do, Nate, to solve the world's problems and to start your own thing and focus on your own betterment of the world around you, my friend?
So the interesting thing is I've had a lot of time to think about, exactly what I'm going to do, because the main focus has always been buy my time back. That has always been it.
Sure.
And so for me, I can tell you right now, the short answer is continue to create, or go more furiously into creating more things. Now, what are the things? There's going to be some entertainment in there for sure. But then there's also like looking at the world's problems and being able to like try and generate ideas on how to invent things to further help people who maybe are less fortunate, right? Something like, hey, how is a country like, say, some like the Congo, right? How are they going to be affording all the gasoline and all the oil and everything to be able to, start creating large industrial like cities that are going to help bring everybody up? Because they don't really have that right now. Well, instead, I can create something with infinite energy. Why not? Let's go do it. So it's things like that I would put as much time to as I possibly could. And then I suppose that's where the idea, though, is like, you need money too. However, everything starts with an idea, and that's when you can start moving, right? And for me to be able to have enough time to actually start moving on those ideas, that's what I'm looking for.
Okay. So you would so you would your purpose would be for solving energy problems or something like researching into that.
Energy,
Go ahead.
entertainment, basically anything in general, any problems that the world truly has that is an actual issue.
Yeah.
Something like global warming. I don't really know what I can do about that. I'm sorry. That's like
Okay.
a world problem. But something that I myself as an individual could think up some ideas, some inventions to be able to start moving forward, to have the time to start moving forward. Hey, I don't need to get up at 7:00 in the morning to go to my job. And then when I get home, then I can start moving. Oh, wait, it's time to go to bed now and have dinner, right? You don't have enough time. I want to buy that time back to be able to get these ideas out and start moving forward with them. And these are going to be what I would call it is the fastest link from A to B, from problem to solution for people. That would also include like entertainment and things as well. Just help uplift the human spirit and, well, I suppose the human population. But yeah,
This is good. Cass and Zenith, you guys are next on the chopping block. Do either of you have a thing that you would want to do when money is no object and your time is? Zenith, I see you came off mute. Cass, you're coming next, Cass. Zenith, what would you do with your efforts and your wealth to make the world a better place, to fix the world, as it were?
I mean, mine's a bit of a cop-out, which is that I don't believe I'm able to fix the world, because I do believe the world is a fundamentally unfixable place to a degree.
Sure.
But this
What would
is,
you
I
do
mean,
with-
it's the answer that I gave for your last one, which is shout out to Moonpilled Rational Optics, because I think he's the one that actually coined the term. I believe he called it the zenith of men, which is some sort of like social philanthropic group of business owners, professionals, people that are looking to be good stewards of a mentor apprentice relationship to really teach people and give people opportunity and allow them to grow. And it's a way of building something that requires a good bit of goodwill, but realistically it's more of the correct use of the word fraternity, as opposed to just a bunch of people drinking crap beer at a college and pretending like they're doing something in hopes that they can get into a social network at the end of it. It's actually building the society and the brotherhood so that you can teach people about good social building and then also provide them opportunities to become skilled professionals, leaders in their own right, and actually build a community with shared values and a shared vision of the future for whatever their limited community is going to be. I'm not going to change the world, but you can absolutely build your purposeful community about who you wish to associate with and how you wish to operate and the values which you wish to uphold and see in the world around you. So,
Okay, so like an education.
kind of more of just networking, to be honest.
Okay, excellent. SJ, what do you got?
I just wanted to add to my earlier statement. In part, it's difficult because I feel like I'm already doing it. I love my life. I do. I'm so happy to be around the people that I'm around, to be having these conversations. Y'all, you 3, 4 here, so I saw faces. All y'all are just some of the kindest, most graceful, like wonderful human beings. And I've had that interaction over and over and over and over and over again. That's why I went on a road trip for my birthday to just go see Hexicans. That's all I want to do in life, is just interact with these wonderful, kind, generous, philanthropic, loving people and build. And here's the thing: I see Hexaco happening now, right? This is the beginning of something that is going to be so much greater than us. And over the last 3 years, I've just seen how it can really happen. It can really happen. We are building it right now in doing things like this and having these conversations. So just off topic, shout out to y'all for being who you are and doing what you do. And thank
You
for
said,
having
look
me
at
on
all
here.
your soft faces, and my brain immediately was like, wow, I think I'm getting called
Oh no,
soft
I said
on
I
air,
just
actually. That's
all I
rough.
did. I said I just saw faces. I
Okay.
looked up and
Okay,
looked
there it
at
is.
3.
There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, she means
Yes.
she left me out by accident because I'm not on camera, which is my own fault.
Gotcha. Hey, there we go. That's perfectly fine. It's a reasonable conclusion to jump to. But like I agree with you, SJ. I do a lot of the similar things where I travel around and I meet Hexicans all over the place. I got to say that's like one of the funnest parts of my official job, is that I'm not stuck in one location for too very long, and so I'm always like skittering about the states and going and meeting people and having the opportunity to go and like hang out with folks such as Moonpilled Rational Optics or Moon Mutt or Moon Dog or how many other moons are there that I know about? Man, I've met with almost all the moons now that I think about it. There's a lot
Are you
of
talking about all the ones that we accidentally banned from our channel?
yeah
the Dark Side of the Moon Club.
the Dark Side of the Moon Club. In case you didn't know, SJ, like for some reason, so when you're in StreamYard, I'm sure you're aware, like there's buttons where you're trying to highlight people's chats, and it will accidentally,
Yeah.
like if you click it at the wrong time, it will block them, or it'll like
Today I
mute
did
them
the
on the
opposite.
channel.
Today I went to remove a really terrible comment and I highlighted it on the.
Oh no.
So yes, I know. Continue.
Super relatable. But yeah, so like we've got our dark side of the moon. But all that to say, like I've met with all the like so many amigos in the space, and it's so cool to travel around and to hang out with people. And I know that like that's not the substance of what I do. What I do right now, like professionally, is like I help people get communication, whether it's like news networks or TV and radio shows or emergency broadcast systems. Like that's my general broad scope line of work, is I work in communications. The fact that I'm like up in the freezing cold 2,000 foot up in the air, like trying to hammer a bolt into a hole that it doesn't fit inside of, that's not as cool as the net result of
True
like
hero.
the fact that what's that?
I said you're a true hero.
Oh
I mean, that's Daredevil type. I mean, come on.
Oh, I'm crazy.
I've been around those towers.
I'm super selfish. Yes, that's right. That's right. You did used to you did the 911 stuff a while ago or something like
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah, it's a call tester. Basically, I was
Yeah.
the Verizon "Can you hear me now" guy.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's a
But like
throwback.
the world of communication is very important. And so like if I wasn't up on towers, like somebody would need to have to do that. And somebody would need to have to like be a project manager. Somebody would have to need to kill the pests. Somebody would need to have to like do all these things that are gonna need to happen. And so like I don't remember which. I think it was the fresh and fit stream that I saw where
Bish.
fresh and fish. Don't tell them that I called him fish. Myron will he'll probably just ignore me. No sweat. The but like on the fresh and fit stream, one of the things that Richard was saying, and this is one of the first things that I heard him say, was that like the only thing in the world that matters is goods and services, and everything else is just accounting. Like all the finances stuff, all the Bitcoin stuff, like you can't eat it, you can't use it to warm your house, you can't whatever. Like everything that really matters in life is goods and services. When the power fails, when the blizzards come in, when the tornadoes hit and the tsunamis like show up, it's like the thing that matters most is like, the bottom part of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Once you solve for that, then you can get into the financial world and you can worry about lawyers, you can worry about, accountants and everything. But at the bottom of the pyramid is, like bricks for building houses, grilled cheeses for eating, medicine to take care of you and keep you living and stuff. And like I like to see Hexicans in the goods and services area finding better ways to fix the world in like blue water horizons where there's not a lot of competition. You're not in a commodity zone. You're basically solving problems that nobody else knows about. You're not like competing with like if I'm selling oranges on the street, like I'm competing with Walmart and Safeway and Albertsons and Piggly Wiggly and wherever the hell else is selling oranges, like I'm just some random asshole on the side of the road. But if I'm out there, like doing something very specific and unique in the blue water field or in the blue ocean field, like something that no one else is doing, I think that Hexicans have the ability to take care of all that stuff, and once we get wealthy, then we can, and we have the time, like Nate was saying, we can buy back our time to learn the better skills, to solve the very unique problems for all of the people in our communities. And we can all sort of kind of like keep our money inside of our own system and at the same time grow our system to include more and more awesome people. Like I think that's just a general awesome place and a great spot for the world to go. And I know that we didn't cover all of the 15 ways to fix the world, but I think that this has been an excellent podcast. Ladies and germs, let's go ahead and do final thoughts of everything in the book, because we've been talking about some great things, but like overall, what are you guys' thoughts on the Richard Hart 15 ways to fix the world? Do you think that there's bright prospects in the future for the world as a whole? Do you think there's bright prospects for our community, bright prospects for yourself? You can answer the question however you like, large scale or small scale or medium scale. But what are your thoughts on the book, and what do you think about the near future? And then once we're done doing all this stuff, we'll do a final round of chat shoutouts, and then we will move to close. We'll go ahead and start with Nate. I want to start with you actually, because we're gonna start on the far side of the panel, and then we'll work our way inwards and finish with SJ. What do you
Far
think,
side of the
Rosie?
moon now, eh?
Yeah. Far side.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead and ask me the question. So what I think about the book?
Yeah, so what do you think about the book? And actually, when we get to Mrs. Maggetta, I also want to ask you what would you do in Hexagon things, because I realize I skipped you for that one. But Nate, what do you think of the book, and do you think that there's bright prospects for the world, or for yourself, or for the community?
Okay, so the book itself, it's an interesting accumulation of good ideas.
Yeah.
And it's certainly one of those things where it's like if you could map out the book properly, this is one of those things that kind of like a book of wise sayings. You'd be able to like I'm stuck somewhere or whatever, and you'd be able to kind of like in your second brain be able to type something in, and then you could have something that will help you out there.
A referenceable flowchart or something?
Yes, exactly.
All right.
There are a lot of good. There's a lot of good things that you can really tell that the mind of Richard Hart is certainly special. That's for sure, and he's got a lot of good intentions for the world, and hence why I think a lot of people went on board with Hex, right? And then as far as like the bright future of what I think about the world and my own life and all that. There's an extremely bright future. I'm not going to stop working the way that I do. I've kind of come to that realization. Even after I'm not waking up at 7 a.m. because I have to go to work, and then I have to work until 4 p.m. minimum. Like as soon as as soon as I get rid of that, I'm just replacing it with something else. And I've already got it in my head what I want to replace it with. But in my mind, it's a level up, you know, the ascending man. You're always ascending, you're becoming better, right? Always going to a new level. Like, I mean, one of the things, just in looking back with just this podcast with us here alone, I'm not exactly the best with words. Everyone, I'm pretty sure here can agree with that. But I'll tell you what, from when I first started, I have improved. And not only that, but I realized just how different I was, right? And so I think the future is definitely bright because you always want to get better. I'm always going to get better, and I'm going to be trying to help as many people as possible. And I've said it once, I've said it twice, I've said it a million times. I will always be here to help anyone who needs it.
Excellent. I like it, Nate. That is a good tie-in. Mrs. Producer, I apologize for skipping over you in my question about what do you think you would do in Hexaco once we get all of the money problems things solved. And you could say like you would be an excellent wife to Mr. Magetta and continue doing the good stuff and the household and stuff. Or you could say like you'd be a cool Pokemon dealer or anything of that nature. But I want to give you an opportunity to answer that question because I realize I skipped over you and whatnot. Do you have any thoughts on that and stuff of that nature?
Don't worry about it too much. Well, I think I need to get my figure something else out to get my face or something on the screen because that might be helpful to be just more present, I guess would be the term there. Also, when you said Pokemon dealer, the only thing I can imagine is that stereotypical like picture you get of the dude in the back alley opening up his jacket, be like, "Hey kids, you want to buy this stuff?" Like, exactly, Zenith. That's the first thing that came to mind. Um, no, when you were asking that question, I've been trying to brainstorm it this whole time, and I'll be honest with you, I haven't come to a concrete answer. There are so many things, there are so many causes, there's so much out there, there's so many people that need help, so many things you can do with your time to try and make the world a better place. I guess I kind of resonate with Zenith on this that the world isn't exactly fixable. We can always do things to make it better, though. Um, and what SJ said kind of hit home with me because when we went out to New York, just the feelings of that experience were so amazing to me. It was the first time I've ever gone to something like that. I've obviously been to like conventions and I don't know, whatever you want to call them, gatherings with people. How about that? But this was the first time that I've ever been to one where it felt like a real community of people who were all trying to actively help one another and grow together. I've never really experienced that. I've met individuals who were like that, and those guys are awesome. They're lovely people, and I've made good friends with them. But I've never been in just a thing where it's like everybody is like that. They were all positive. There was nothing negative that, at least that I experienced. And maybe there's background noise that I don't know about, and we'll eventually find out. But that's besides the point. I would love to do more things like that. I would love to eventually get to a point where I can host things like that and gather those people and just try and help people grow in that sense and really try to get people who are wanting that growth to have an outsource or a resource to come to where they can all gather together and they can all try to grow together. SJ, it looks like you came off mute.
Well, to the point you're saying, I think that's part of why I feel like the Pulse Chain Tour has been so successful, because to feel that way, right, and to, in fact, Cass, that comment you said about it being a community, I think it's one of the greatest compliments I've ever heard about the tour. And sometimes you don't realize what you've done or what you've built, right, until you hear it through someone else's eyes. So the I just totally lost my train of thought.
It's good enough.
No worries. I think we kind of get what you mean, and I'm really glad to hear that. Actually, that warms my heart. Aside from that, though, I guess I don't have a concrete answer for you, Will. Unfortunately, if I had a bunch of money to blow and do whatever I wanted with, I would probably do so many things that I can't even think about right now. That would just end up happening because that's what the need would be at the time. If that makes sense, you run into the people who need the thing, and then you do the thing. That's kind of how I would see it.
I love that perspective. I feel very similarly. That's why I don't I don't have too many answers when I think about that, because I feel like this is the most synchronistic community there's so many very like deep rooted beliefs. I think many of us have, that it's like the hive mind kind of idea, right? So I'm excited to continue to see the growth and to really, because one of the things that I noticed when I first got in, which was as the bull market was all the way at the top the last time, is how many people were talking about this sort of thing, right? Just moving people forward and having that forward thinking, positive, like take action. That's sci-vive, really, at the core of it. That's what it is. So it's neat to see to see more people like so like-minded meeting together and like having similar thoughts. And just Cassie, like you're speaking to my heart. Like everything that you're saying about all that. So it's just so refreshing. It really is. After I feel like so many years of my life, it's just refreshing to be around such like-minded brilliant people.
I like it.
Yes, I love that. Then so about this book, let's get to that part now, because I think
Yes.
that's about as thorough as an answer as I can give you. Um, the thing I liked most about this book is that it was a little bit ridiculous. Some of the things in there were like funny, so that kept me a little engaged. Like when he brought up the dinosaur thing, the dinosaurs are extinct because they didn't have a space program. I'm like, wait, what did you just say? Like I did a double take, had to go back, listen to that again. And it kept me a little more engaged than some of the other audiobooks, especially the more technical ones. I am the type of person, we've talked about this before, who likes the stories. So that was nice. Other than that, I mean, in the list of the 10,000 hours, I think this one could fall pretty early, personally. Kind of goes hand in hand with sci-fi. And like Zenith and I have mentioned, it feels a little bit more like a checkbook of like things to do rather than an actual book. But that's all right. If you have to take it in chunks, you can definitely do that. SJ's narration is wonderful. So go in there, pause the video whenever you feel like it, and YouTube saves that for you. It's nice. It just whenever you go into your history, YouTube's like, hey, you stopped here. And I'm like, cool, I wrote it down, but I didn't need to. So that's kind of my feedback. Definitely think it's worth giving a listen or a read if you want to go find the physical thing. Well, not the physical thing, the online book. Is it on Kindle? Do we know? Is it something that people can buy on there? No?
Not that I know
Oh,
of. It is in SciVive Telegram, though. It's t.me/SciVive is the text of 15 ways to fix the world is pinned.
okay, awesome. So that works. Go and find Richard Hart's Telegram and check it out. Check out Sci-Fi as well, much longer. So be prepared for that. But yeah, that's where I fall. I definitely think it's worth giving a listen to and taking into consideration, and just trying to learn all the good things that are in it, even if you are struggling to follow the flow. You don't have to try and tackle it all at one time. You can take it in your own pace, whatever you need to do. And I'm going to pass it on to Zenith.
Excellent. Zenith, what do you think? And what are your thoughts on Bright Prospects?
Well, what do you think I'm going to say? I just want to ask that real quick.
I think that you're going to say that the book is not organized like a book, and it's got good things in it, but it is like, as far as the book idea goes, right? It is not a technical book. So that's what I think. And I think that you recognize that there's good information in there, and while it might not be presented in a good book format, it has stuff that is worth noting, and probably stuff that is that also disagrees with itself and things of that nature. But general, probably at least above the 50th percentile in the positive range. That would be my thought. What do you got?
That's a pretty accurate description. If I had a terrible analogy for this, is that this book is 100 pennies in a pile, but I cannot buy anything with $1 with it. It is a disjointed book of ideas that, in their own individual context, that do require some qualification. Everything is technically correct in a sense, but the issue is that, like, I'm looking for some sort of like major thesis or idea or train of thought to follow throughout the whole thing. And in this book, it doesn't really exist. There's a lot of different good ideas, but at the same time, there's no unified worldview or idea of what the end goal is to accomplish other than just making the world better. And it's like, I don't really know what that means or in how exactly. I mean, with sci-fi, there at least is a little bit more, which is that it's the idea of self-improvement, which I can understand. But this one, it does seem a bit odd. And for a little bit of context, in particular, one of the things that stands out to me is like in the chapter on education, Richard Hart talks about how he doesn't want people to be a terrible form of Google where you just memorize and you do trivia and you're getting it wrong half the time and you're just a terrible form of it. But then he also tries to disprove, like, I don't know, disprove religion, but he talks about religion and he's like, yeah, if you go ask a street preacher what the 10 commandments are, they're not going to be able to name all of them. It's like, okay, do you want someone to create you a worldview or do you want them to regurgitate information for you? It's like,
that's a fair point.
It's stuff like that. It seems like it's holding different people to different standards at different times. So that's the kind of stuff that confuses me. Overall, some good ideas. Like I said, I like some of the. Are you going to be shocked if I tell you I like some of the more like philosophical or political thinking ideas when like specifically the one I referenced earlier about like about like voting and how political power should be wielded by a citizenry. It's like,
I agree.
Yeah, that seems kind of in line with the books that I've been reading and just trying to understand how humans can form a society and a government that doesn't just tyranny at the earliest convenience. But yeah, that's that. Other than that, though, I mean, Richard Hart is obviously and clearly a very, very much ahead of his time. He has more than 3 standard deviations on the bell curve for early adopters, innovators, inventors when it comes to everything cryptocurrency. I think he has a very good grasp on the monetary system, the value of money, the transfer of money, how it flows, how it moves, how people view it. That stuff is all fantastic to me. So anytime he talks about that, I am largely interested. Believe me, I am. But yeah. Other than that, though, I can only half-heartedly recommend the book. I will absolutely say that SJ is the best part about the book, though. She has an excellent reading, and I greatly appreciate that she actually did she actually put forward the effort and did the thing. And made the audiobook, so it's out there for you to read instead of go look at that Word document that is allegedly a book, but we'll see.
The Word document is difficult. That's all I have to say about that. I threw the Word document into ChatGPT, and it made it much more digestible, but I got to say that, like, the SJ, you did a fantastic job reading it, so shout out to you for that as well. Zenith, before we let you go, though, what are your thoughts on, like, do you think that the world is becoming better in 15 ways? Do you think that that's on the horizon? Do you think that your world is getting better? Do you think that the people around you's world is getting better?
I think that unfortunately right now, the average person in the world is unfortunately experiencing a hyperinflationary part of a cycle, or a wave, if you will, and things are going to have to get worse before they get better. Abjectly, though, we live in the best time to be alive in human society and civilization? Absolutely, 100%. If someone from the 1900s died and woke up today, they would think that they went to heaven. Just like the amount of technology, the amount of
air conditioning,
just the interconnectivity. Agreed, air conditioning. It sounds dumb, but like air conditioning is actually like an absolute massive thing.
Yeah,
like air conditioning was invented like, oh shit, I want to say maybe in the 60s.
Yeah, it's not only that too, but it's also the peace of the entire world as well. You look around and like all the bad things happening, it's like, well, technically speaking, we are living in the most peaceful time in human history. So
yeah, air conditioners used to be called ice boxes, and it was literally a box with a big ass block of ice in it. So yeah, it must have been like the 50s or the 60s or something like that. You got a statue of them down in Miami, I believe.
First modern air conditioner was invented in 1902 by Willis Haviland Carrier. Anyways, the point is not air conditioning. The point is that if you believe the Great Wave stuff that we talked about last book club, which I think it largely makes sense. There's a lot of different ways to view the world, and spoiler alert, we're going to cover another one of those in Sovereign Individual next week. This is definitely another cycles book, but it's a lot larger. It's more of like 500-year cycles at a time, and it's more of the coming age, which is that, are we moving to a transitioning age? Yeah, good chance. But at the same time, I think that the dam has to break at some point, and to steal Will's book, the ledger must balance, so to speak, which is that real wages will have to come back. The asset class will have to give way to the working class at some point. And we will, again, experience a time of relatively stable prices and prosperity. And then eventually it's going to have such good times that it's going to mess it all up again. But I'll probably be dead for that part, so who knows?
Hopefully, we'll see. Well, not hopefully you'll be dead, but hopefully you don't have to worry
Thanks,
about
man. Appreciate
the
that.
terribleness. I'll be right there with you, broski. I bet you I'm gonna. I'll race you. That's how we'll go. I'll race you, but no unnatural interference. All right.
The way I live life is a race to be 35. Then after that, it's a quick downfall. Is that what it is?
Oh, I have no idea.
At least 40, man. At least 40. Then you
To
can go.
quote Dom Mazzetti, the great philosopher, live large, die large, leave a giant coffin.
There you go. Yep. Nice and large and in charge. I like it. SJ, same question to you. What do you think of the book, and how do you see the prospective future, small, medium, large, however you want to answer it?
So I think the book, to me, is something that more people would know more about Richard through, and that's why I like and promote it. I think I agree with Zenith that it is. I think of the books, I didn't spend much time with that one. I think I edited it. Like, there is an edited version, but it's nothing like Sci-Vibe is.
The collection of voice notes is a very apt description, and once you see that, you can't unsee it. I'll say that much.
I think that wasn't I mean, I think that was in part planned, as if it was a life hack. That's kind of what Sci-Vibe, at one point, like, it might have been discussed that was what Sci-Vibe is or was or could be, like, just something you can continually add to and, refine as time goes on in terms of what works, right?
The only pushback I'll give to that idea is that I find it odd because in Sci-Vive, Richard Hart literally talks about good salesmanship as how you make sales and how you package information as part of good salesmanship. Yet he chooses to package the information for his 2 books in this specific way. It seems a bit odd to me that, like, it seems that he knows, he has an idea of the concept, and he ideas that if you convey information well in a well formatted way, it is more likely to be received.
Yeah.
But then he does it like this.
Oh man, I don't know how to, like, stress to you that that's not like there's so much else going on. Like, if he happened to be watching this right now, like, his heart would be breaking, because this is his baby. This is, like, these books, this information, what he wants to put out there in the world. That's really, at the end of the day, I feel crypto is just a stepping stone for Richard, and he really is going to fix the world on a grand scale.
I wanted to add to that. I think kind of what SJ is getting at, or the understanding that I'm coming to is, Zenith, to your point, yes, they are not well structured and they are hard to get through if you're going to try and read the raw text. SJ makes them digestible, very much so. And if it wasn't for her,
with that very much.
And
if it wasn't
there's
for
the chat GPTs too, like that's
true. That's true. But
do something.
But before Chat GPT, you made all these good things. But I think kind of the point here is, and what Richard might argue if he were to argue with your point on this, Zenith, is that these are more the real him. It's not so much structured to be a sellable point. I mean, it's not even in a physical format. He has said that he wants people to be able to access it for free. And it's more so just him as an actual human being, that he's trying to do the thing and kind of be understood in that sense. Does that make sense a little bit?
It does, but at the same time,
I feel like he's also a perfectionist. He's a perfectionist, and he's got to have the time to sit down and go through. There was something else. There was another point. That was not where I was going with that. Anyways, continue.
It just strikes me as odd because it seems that if his goal is actually to help the most people, then he wants to be mission effective. Being part of mission effective is crafting the message so that it is easily and well received by the most people possible. When we did our Sci-Vive review of the book, I remember I said that I think this is a 50th percentile book, which is that this book is squarely aimed at the general population to try to achieve the maximum value by impacting the most people a little bit, as opposed to impacting a very niche, narrow audience a good bit by doing something very in-depth and technical. That's why I think the level of information that exists in the book is what it is. But at the same time, granted, I understand that I am the guy that recommended The Great Wave, which is a book talking about history all the way back to the 1200s, and I thought it was a riveting read, partly because I think the author does a very good job writing it. And they talk about, like, death and famine and all the conflict and all the good times and all the bad times. It's like, that's fair, but at the same time, it's like, when it comes to Richard Hart, he speaks in a way where he understands that communicating effectively is very important. But then his book that he puts out, it doesn't feel like that. And I understand that, like, believe me, I want to like Richard Hart as much. I just think that sometimes people overlook the flaws because they believe so much in the good stuff. And absolutely, I'm not discounting any of the good stuff at all. I feel like I really gave him a waxing recommendation there about he's one of the most knowledgeable, informative people about anything when it comes to monetary value in the world, and it translates into cryptocurrency. Absolutely. At the same time, though, I'm also going to admit that I think his writing style is a bit underdeveloped. Call me a jerk. Call me what you will. I'm just trying to call.
It's not a jerk, bro. You are.
I'm trying to be a responsible person and be not responsible. I'm trying to be honest, which is that I'm trying to call a spade a spade.
I'm not disagreeing with you either.
Okay.
But you're looking at an unfinished product. You're looking at a work in progress. They're not done. Like it wasn't even. I don't know that he even thought it was going to be a book when he pinned them that many years ago.
That's fair. That's a very good point. If it is, then that's perfect. But at the same time, I will say I've seen the streams. He has touted these things as works, as what would likely be a finished work, I'd argue, which is he is openly talking about like he wrote a self-help book.
That's fair.
And it specifically talks about how it helps you give better apologies, helps you fix yourself, fix the world, that kind of thing. So it's like he's using this as a talking point for certain things. But at the same time, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he just kind of like did it and doesn't expect people to ever go double check his work and be like, oh yes, the book exists. Will I read it? No, I'll just believe that it's a good one. Dude, I'll put it this way. The reason that I read books, that I started the book club, is that I wanted to learn and grow more. And unfortunately, I just think that the Richard Hart products, when it comes to the books anyways, are probably just not aimed at me. And that's totally fine because I'm just not that audience, and that is A-okay.
This is good feedback, though. This is good feedback because it is important to understand every part of every audience that's going to consume or choose not to consume a product. So, Richard, if you do happen to be listening, then like perhaps these words mean something, and if they don't, then you know what, so be it. Like it's always good to hear unfiltered feedback that is constructive, and it's not like there's any ad hominem going on here. It's not like there's any sort of like this is, I would say this is good and it's objective. And while I might not agree with it, like I'm glad to hear that you have this opinion, Zenith, and that you are willing to put your money where your mouth is and speak eloquently about what your position is and what your thoughts are and things of that nature.
If we can, Mrs. Producer, if we can highlight Tam's other comment, Tam is saying I should help him make it better. Tell you what, if you would like my assistance with his work, sure, happy to help out. But other than that, I have my own life to be worrying about, and I believe I can be more effective in other ways. But if you would like to reach out and work with me, I'm more than happy to volunteer it. When you're rich, you'll have plenty of free time. Yes. Well, maybe not. Depends if we're building all that giant network and social club for masculine excellence, as I said.
Everyone's got to have their all of their priorities and all their ducks in order. Have I gone through? Have I asked each of you guys this final question? I do believe that I have. SJ,
Did we hit
you,
SJ?
right?
Gotta hit SJ.
Yeah. No, I feel like, did I not answer part of it, or?
I think you did. I don't
I
remember.
think you answered it. Is there anything else you would like to add?
Okay.
Let me think. I just appreciate you guys. I mean, I appreciate it, and me not being the author, I can only imagine how much Richard even appreciates y'all even talking about this book, because I feel like from what I've experienced and what I know, this was the thing he thought was going to be really sticky and catch on and have a lot of people, and to his credit, I've been reached out to over, like, on numerous occasions, people saying, thank you for this, just for listening to Sci-Fi, it changed my life, or it saved me. Like, the amount of people that he has helped become either sober or more productive it's lovely. And I can't say that's why I did what I did, because I didn't even know it. Right. So it's lovely to be like, in hindsight, man, it's nice to feel like that's the work that I got to put in part, is spreading these words. And it's, I don't know, it's just all a volunteer effort. Like after reading it, I decided to do the editing because I just appreciated the words so much. And, Zenith, I think knowing how much you've read and how many books, like you having this being your, like the show idea of it. Sorry, I'm tired. I've been driving a lot, tripping over words. But just I've not read a lot of those kinds of books, right? This self-help, self-improvement. So I know that a lot of what Richard says echoes a lot of other books, but to me, it was just either reminders I needed to hear or things I'd never heard before, and words I'd never heard. Like when I when I recorded this, I had to look different words up and different principles and ideas and laws and things, and I learned so much just doing the audiobook.
Oh yeah.
So it's really something else, and I hope that he either has the time soon or it'll be nice when it's a published book and something that you can hold in your hands, or maybe like a print on demand where you can continue adding to it and keep it as a ongoing something to build others up, right? Like it's just a book of uplifting sayings.
Excellent.
Yeah, for sure. To your point, I think the fact that this has helped a good number of people out in the world is absolutely undeniable. This book has had positive impact for sure. And nothing that we say about how he's an unsophisticated writing style and it doesn't seem formatted, that doesn't take away from the fact that he's genuinely benefited other people. And that's a fantastic thing.
And I gotta just pop in here right quick and agree with SJ. There is a lot of stuff in this book that you won't find anywhere else. Where else will you have somebody tell you that the dinosaurs are extinct because they didn't have a space program, guys? Let's give it to Richard Hart. He's the only person I've ever heard pull that one out, and he's absolutely correct.
This is part of the great failings of the Jurassic
logic is
period.
undeniable.
Yep. I like it. I'll go ahead and I'll give my thoughts on the book. I think that this is a great book for people to start off and supplement on the scale of 0 to 10,000 hours of like, if a person's going to benefit from reading this book, where should they incorporate it into their learning process? And I would say like just right there in the beginning, right next to Sci-Vive. It's a good collection of quotes and ideas and fantastic thoughts, and like it's full of great stuff that people would greatly benefit. I know that I've benefited immensely from having Sci-Vive in my life. The thing that I like to quote the most is Richard Hart's his bits about the apology, his bits about the risk diode, and oh man, there was another one, and all of his stuff about salesmanship and dealing with people. That's the stuff that's impacted me the most in my life. And I think that people, if you're going to read this book, I would highly recommend that you read it right in the beginning of your journey, because it's got a whole bunch of little bit for everywhere. And then as you're going through other things in life, there will be there's things that he references in here that will make sense when you start expanding on the concepts and the core things and principles that he speaks about in this book and stuff. So I would recommend it like right in the beginning, 0 to 10 hours, like on your journey. If you look at your journey as a timeline, just start right there in the beginning and read this book, read Sci-Vive, and that'll get you a hell of a lot further than anyone else in their education and things of that nature. As far as where do I see the future going and the bright prospects, both for myself and the community and for the world at large, I think that my life is going to go great. I think that my community's life is going to go great because I'm surrounded by these freaking Quattro Cinco hexagons all over the place. And like, we're just full of nothing but good people, like what SJ was saying earlier when I travel the States, when she travels around and we meet up and we hang out. And, like when the 5 of us were in New York together, it was awesome. When the 5 of us show up in Vegas later on next year, it's going to be awesome again. Like, it's just nothing but positivity and bright prospects and wonderful futures for me and my community. As far as the world goes, oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
Absolutely shill.
I noticed that y'all had on the description that the Degen code is good for 10% off. For another 3 hours, it's good for 20% off.
Oh,
yeah, the 20%
excellent.
off was extended until Friday night. So if you use the code Degen within maybe if I can swing it with the boss the next 24 hours, Degens get 20% off for the next 24.
There you guys go. Spend that money, get those tickets, get that Degen get that Degen promo code for the Pulse Tour 369. It's happening over in Las Vegas, March. Actually, Mrs. Producer, as we end the show, I would like you to play our good friend Zenith's commercial that he made for the for the Pulse Chain Tour. And just so you guys know, the commercial will say 36.9%. The correct number is 20% because it's an older commercial, but it's still an excellent commercial. Just mentally change the percentage numbers if you're going to use promo code Degen when you buy your tickets to the Pulse Chain Tour later or the Pulse Chain Conference Tour, or whatever the verbiage was. I can't remember what it was, but I think it's conference that's going on.
PLS 369. PLS
Yes.
369 con or conference.
Oh man,
Because it'll always be March 6th through the 9th every time. So it's the
Yes.
PLS 369. Yeah.
PLS 369 conference. I like it. There we go. Go get it in Vegas, everybody. And
I never would have made that connection if you hadn't just said that. I did not know that was the okay, month, date, year. Oh yeah,
Yep.
I got it now.
the
Yeah,
369.
369.
Yeah. And we're the ones shilling it. So like if we don't know it and we're shilling it, we need to say it even more so that way the folks at home, if this is your first time, your second time, third time, generally people have to hear something 7 times before they take action. Whether you see a billboard that shows you Coca-Cola or you hear a radio ad that shows you Coca-Cola, then you go to a movie and it shows you Coca-Cola. And then like you're at the store and you see one, you're like, you know what, I could go for a Coca-Cola. It's the 7 times and then you take action. So hopefully this is the 7th time you've heard us say use promo code Degen at checkout for 20% off of your ticket at the Pulse or the 369 PLS 369 Tour conference happening in Las Vegas next year. To finish off my answer to my own question, I think that the world is going to go through some tough times, but I am hopeful because there's been some cool political stuff that's happened over, I don't know, so this last like half of a month, and some nifty people are being appointed to do some nifty things. And I like seeing shakers and movers in places where I think they're going to make the world a better place. Let's see. The next part of the show is time to close out. So we got to go through this a little bit expeditiously because we're way past our bedtime right now. So for the folks at home,
Chat, shout out.
Chat shout outs. My goodness, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for chat motherfucking shout outs. And then we're going to talk about where the folks can find us and what we've got going on in the near future. So, Mrs. Producer, thank you for reminding me, keeping me honest. For chat shout outs, we're going to start with Funk Master Hex. Listen to crypto, watch the Tyson fights, and pour a cocktail. This is a beer bottle, not a thumbs down. So pour yourself a cocktail, go get degenerate, go watch Mike Tyson beat the shit out of Jake Paul. You know, I don't care really who wins. As long as Jake Paul gets his shit knocked around, I think that I'll be happy. So, go and do that stuff. It is good to see you, Mr. Funk Master Hex. Welcome. And we did shout you out earlier about being the first one to comment one whole day early before the stream went live. So good to see you. Next up in the chats, we've got Believe on the Lord Jesus Christ. I followed some wild girl named SJ here. Shout out to you, Believe on the Lord Jesus Christ. Good to see you, amigo. Welcome to the Degen Roundtable. We love everybody, and it's good to see you here. Next up, we've got none other than Hexfire Crispy Man, one of my favorite data and analysts in the Pulse chain space, saying Quattro Cinco 5555 OFC. Of course, I think is what he's saying. I'm not sure what OFC means. I'm not exactly up on lingo. Does that mean of
yes,
course?
Yes, it's of course. Yep.
Okay, excellent. Of course. Quattro Cinco, of course, because collect those T-shares, baby. And the Quattro Cinco is the best way to take advantage of the T-shares. And good to see you, Crispy. Welcome to the stream. Next up, we got Moonpilled Rational Optics saying, last thing, dollar cost crypto let this slip on his stream last night. For those who are still in the dark, I'm going to be a dad in a few months. So shout out to Moonpilled Rational Optics. Gonna be a father. Cheers to you, amigo. Welcome to the world of fatherhood. I am so stoked to see this. Bright prospects all around. Man, I don't have a... I don't think
I'm a little bit curious. Is this your first, or is this like going on number 5,
implies
10?
This is first.
If he's saying he's going to be a dad,
that means he's not already a dad.
Okay, I'm an idiot over here. Okay, awesome. Well, anyways, congratulations on being a new dad. And
congrats to you, man.
Yes. Cheers, Moonpilled Rational Optics. I am so proud of you, broski. Welcome to the world. Only 40% of men in all of history have ever had children, so you are within the top percentile of men who have passed on their genes. So good to you, sir. And this includes like all of humans ever, not
Real
just
quick.
like modern times. What's up,
I want
Miss
to add
Spaghetti?
in, congratulations, Minfield, and you'll be fantastic at it. That is so awesome. I'm thrilled for you.
Yes. Oh, this is so excellent. Oh man, so fantastic. All right, what a great way to end such a fantastic stream. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you guys for joining us on this fine evening tonight. We're going to real quick go around the panel and ask where can the folks find you and what do you have going on in the near future, starting with our fantastic guest, a wild SJ or Zenith. Is there something? Okay.
No.
Okay. I don't know. It looked like you coughed or made a noise off screen or something there. But SJ, where can the folks find you and what have you got going on in the near future?
You can find me all over the world teaching about true DeFi through Pulse Chain. I am at a wild SJ on all the socials, and the things that are going on in the near future, I do believe I am going to try to get to Panama for Randy Hilarski's No Permissions meetup. So I'm excited about that. It's it's fun to meet up with community. It just makes my heart happy on this year journey. And what were the other two? What was the other question?
What have you got going on in the near future and where can the folks find you?
Oh yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah, and then of course the PLS 369 conference. It's going to be a blast. There's going to be so much to do. We're doing a pitch fest, a hackathon, and y'all. I mean, we're talking about this as much as we can right now. We've been planning it for over 6 months at the very least. So it's really going to be something else. I'm just super excited to be part of the team that gets to host this and start, kick it off and hopefully inspire others to do bigger and better things in the future.
You forgot to mention the best part of the entire week, which is the golf tournament.
I'm so glad you're here. That's how Kaylin and I started working together, was the first Pulse Masters tournament. I actually have the Hex Ladies flag from that hole on my wall here. And yeah, I actually did not go out on the golf course at all. I stayed inside of the cold, dark room the entire time. It was very hot out there. But this time, the weather should be much nicer, and each hole is sponsored by a different project. So there's going to be all this like interaction on the course. But yeah, I mean, I'm not that into golf, so you're a golfer over there. Tell me what you think about that.
Well, the good news is I don't think you need to be a golfer per se, because it looks like you guys you're running it as a 4-man team scramble tournament, aka you and 3 of your friends all just play best ball and try to get the lowest score. It's a good time. And then also I've done a few golf tournaments where like holes are sponsored and they have some gimmicks. Shoot, one of them, there was they did like a bazooka hole, which is there was like an air powered cannon thing, and you got to shoot the ball off your tee shot for that. But it was a par 5, and so a super long hole that goes around a lake, and you could try to cut the corner and get it onto the green. It was absolutely possible to do it in one, but you had to get it right. But yeah, it's fun stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to it. Again, I don't think this is a very like serious competitive event. I mean,
yeah.
We're still looking for a 4th on our team, and I may or may not be researching some old retired golf pros that happen to live in Las Vegas. But that's not here nor there.
There was a cannon that fired golf balls, and they also had a cutout of Richard Hart twerking, and they were shooting the golf balls off his twerking behind.
That's amazing.
Yeah. That's just a glimpse into what you could be a part of. March 6th the 9th.
Is it the same golf course as the previous years?
No.
Okay.
I was looking. No, it's not.
Gotcha. I was looking. Desert Pines is the name of the golf course for this upcoming year. It is a very, very nice course, it looks like. And I am excited. I might be going out to Vegas in January, and I might go play it then just to get an idea for it. We'll see.
Excellent. But Zenith, where can the folks find you and what have you got going on in the near future, my friend?
Folks, catch me on Twitter at ZenithDI. Tonight, the DI stands for direct injection of 1 Coors Light. So that's what we got. Other than that, we have our Sunday show coming up, 8 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to be talking about everything going on. Allegedly, we may have confirmation that Gary Gensler has resigned from the SEC. That may or may not be big news. So we'll take a look at whether or not that's real or fake. But other than that, yep, Wednesday show coming up, same thing. And next week, I am running book club. We are doing The Sovereign Individual. Shout out to the Moon Gang and Charlie from Cultivate Crypto. This is one of his biggest crypto recommendations. It is mastering the transition to the information age. Pretty much the book talks about how there's different ages in human history and there's different cycles that kind of occur to it. And the author believes that we are in the transition to the new information age right now, and gives some ideas about some predictions and how people can be prepared for it. So that's what we got going on. Mrs. McGettit, where can the folks find you?
Alrighty, so the folks can find me if they want to talk to me for whatever weird reason, maybe about production things or Pokemon cards. You know, I'm not against either of those conversations. They can do that right down in the Degen Roundtable Telegram. We have a lovely QR code if Zenith wouldn't mind pointing at that for us, or Will or Nate or whoever, but it's right there below Zenith. You can scan that, hop in the Telegram with us. We have tons of alpha all times of the day, and we've got so many great people in there. Just even if you don't want to talk to me, join it anyway, because if you're not in there, what are you even doing with your life? And then other than that, what we've got coming up is what Zenith has already mentioned, and very excited to meet, get to hang out with SJ and RG3 and all of the wonderful Hexicans again in March. That's a little bit longer way out, but we will be there. And like SJ's already mentioned, get your tickets if you haven't already. If you haven't already, again, what are you even doing with your life? But you still got a second chance. Get that 20% off tomorrow. The next day, it's going to drop. You already missed the 36.9% off, so don't miss the 20. Get in there. Get your tickets. Nate, what have you got going on?
Yeah, actually, so I've got some plans on kind of deep diving a little bit into like social medias and algorithms and things, and I kind of think this is the right direction to go overall. But along with that, last Thursday here, as of yesterday, right? I actually deep dived with KG on specifically what his wallet was doing, you know, what time and internet money, what exactly it is, you know, how it works and all that. It was a really good show. There's a lot of information in there. Quite frankly, I'm extremely bullish on on that project. A strategy that has worked very well for me has been, if something is forgotten, you might want to look at buying it, especially if it's down and then forgotten and it's not pumping right now and people aren't talking about it. So you tend to, if you go that direction, it's going to have its pump eventually, and you've bought in the bottom, basically. I'm just going to go ahead and throw that out there. It's worked really well for me. So, you know, maybe go look into it. With that being said, though, yes, we are going to have the Sunday show. I do recommend watching these guys. I don't know if I'm going to be on it or not. More than likely not. I do kind of want to talk about the whole idea of like the SEC possibly just holding back the Ethereum ETFs, because I'm a bit curious on your guys' viewpoints on that. However, that being said, I do put out this information literally daily on my X account, and it was right there. It's in the chat. Go ahead and give me a follow, because I do put out as much information as I possibly can. Anything that I have lots of multiple news sources going through, anything that I deem like, hey, this might be relevant to you and the information that you will need to be able to make the wise investing choices that you need to be able to win this cycle. So with that being said, I will go ahead and throw it back over to Will, and he can close us out.
Shoot, I was muted there. Look at that. Learning how to do production and everything. Folks, you guys can find all of my socials off of my Pulse domain link tree, will.pls.fyi. It's down in the chats. You guys saw it about 7 seconds before you hear me talk about it live, because that's the way that the chats work. So y'all can find all of my socials down there. If you want to follow me on Twitter, or X, it's just Will Stevenson X. That is spelled the exact same way as my name here on screen. If you're a Hexican and you want to meet other Hexicans, then what you need to do is you need to go to bit.ly/hex_meetup, or you can go to t.me/hex_meetup. It's the same damn thing. But the bit.ly one will bring you to the specific message in that Telegram that is the Start Here page. If you're a Hexican, you need to go meet other Hexicans, or you want to go meet other Hexicans, just like SJ and myself, then this tool is fantastic for you. It allows you to tag on to other people's meetups that they're doing on a small scale in any of the super cool little topics and rooms. If you want to start your own meetup, you just go to the little triple dot button at the top of the page. You create a new topic. You name it whatever location you want to. You could name it West Virginia. You could name it Seattle. You could name it, I don't know, planet Earth or whatever the hell you want. You can name it whatever location. Just you can create topics and then go and organize your own little meetups. Go throw some axes. Go drink some beers. Go walk in the woods. Do whatever. It's awesome to go and meet Hexicans, and I cannot stress that enough. If you're a cryptocurrency person and you want to do business with other cryptocurrency bros, then the thing you need to do for that is you need to go to bit.ly/crypto_bro_services. It is literally just a Google Sheets document that has people's information. If they're some sort of cryptocurrency person that I've met and they offer some sort of good or service, I've not vetted anyone. I've just literally talked to people and I'm like, hey, bro, like, do you do anything other than like crypto degeneracy? They're like, oh, yeah, I make hats. Or, hey, I design websites. Or, like I teach people how to shoot, or I show people how to like learn bodybuilding, or I'm a nutritionist. If you want to go do business with other people that are in the same crypto sphere as you, like, again, none of these people are vetted. They're just crypto people that I've met. And if you want to do business with other crypto people, then that's one way that you can reach out to other cryptocurrency people as well. There's a ton of Hexicans in there. There's a ton of people from the Moon Gang, ton of people from the Degen Roundtable, and all sorts of cool stuff going on over there. So that's what I've got as far as shout outs. Obviously, we have mentioned that we've got our Sunday show coming up. It's going to be a good one. Zenith is hosting book club for next weekend, and we've got either Whiskey Wednesday or a special guest. I don't know if we have a special guest, so the default is just Whiskey Wednesday, but we might have a special guest. Who knows? We shall see. And that is what I've got for shout outs and everything. So now it's time to read the end of show copywriting after I copy and paste #not financial advice. So remember, guys, that nothing we talk about here on the show is financial advice. So we're just giving you our thoughts and our feelings on the internet, and that's all that we've got for you. So that being said, I want to thank you all for spending your valuable time with us here on the Degen Roundtable. As Agent J often says, we know that time is your most valuable asset, and we appreciate you investing it right here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Will Stevenson, but more importantly, you have been watching the Degen Roundtable. Mrs. Producer, go ahead and get that trigger figure ready, because it's time to remind all the folks at home to remember to Degen responsibly.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Pulse Chain Tour Masters Golf Tournament 2024. Zenith is making his approach to the green on this sudden death playoff between himself and Reginald Gerald III, who already completed his putt for birdie. Zenith needs to make this putt right here in order for his dreams of winning that jacket to stay alive. Let's see what he does. Oh, he flubbed it. He missed. He whiffed. He's a loser. I repeat, RG3 wins. RG3 wins. Don't make mistakes like that guy. Get ready early for Pulse Chain Tour Las Vegas 2025, including the Pulse Masters Golf Tournament from March 6th through the 9th. Sign up early and use the code DGEN at checkout before September 1st. You get 36.9% off all of your tickets. Don't miss out on all the fun from the star-studded conferences, golf tournament, and nightly events in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada with all of your friends and favorite Pulse and Hex creators. We cannot wait to see you in Vegas, so until then, Degen responsibly.